Podmortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are also available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers, free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. There may be delays due to a hectic schedule and all projects being read on a first-come, first-served basis, but everything will be read and responded to. William Rush has individually produced numerous projects, including Pack is Here, Before, The Cottage, The Winemaker, and Day by Day. Their multi-award-winning film Group premiered and was celebrated at multiple film festivals as well as screenings, both in person and via Zoom, that were graciously made available to us and our patrons.
Original Cinematic has many exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, has been completed. The award-winning Sweetener is in development. Fetish begins shooting in September, and Encore will begin next spring. Their documentary, Women in Conversation, is slated for a September release, and we're looking forward to each and every one of them. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Salutations! Welcome to Podmortem. I'm Travis Hunter, joined as always by my co-host, my sister, and my brother-in-law.
Hi, I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
This week, we're broadcasting live from the Boiler Room, discussing the 1992 supernatural horror film, Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth. This film was directed by Anthony Hickox from a screenplay by Peter Atkins, with a story credited to Atkins and Tony Randall, based on characters created by Clive Barker. After years of production delays and various incarnations, Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth finally made its way to the big screen in the hands of a new director. While this film acts as a continuation to its predecessor with direct ties to previous entries, it is also wholly its own with a brand new cast of characters who encounter the mysterious and familiar puzzle box. Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth also provides an expansion on the lore and mythology, delving deeper into the backstory of the iconic lead Cenobite Pinhead, while also providing the audience with sinister set pieces, memorable moments of the macabre, and the signature blend of pain and pleasure that the series is known for. This film would achieve decent success at the box office and better reviews than the previous entry, leading to future installments in the years that followed. This film was suggested to us by friends of the show, Scott Troutman-Wise and Beth Bauer. We'd like to thank both of them for their continued support of the show, as well as this suggestion. So, Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth. What were your first impressions on the film?
So, I am familiar with the first three. This one I also watched when I was a wee lad. Which it's not as bad, I'll say, as the first one. You know what I mean? But there is
content.
Yes, content-wise. Yeah, sorry. But this one was that I seen a couple of times, but there was things about it that I really did remember. And I know when we talked about covering it, I was like, man, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I was trying to prepare you guys. I was like, I'm not sure if I fully remember how good it is, if it lives up to the first two, or how it plays out. Mm-hmm. Then I remember when I started working on it, I remember in our chat with the three of us, I was like, look, I think I like this movie a little more than I remember. But it's just there's certain things that happen in the movie, and me watching it so young, my grown-up self now trying to remember it or what happened, I think there were too many gaps that were missing. Mm-hmm. So me just thinking, usually movies, when they go on, they get worse. I was like, maybe it's not as good. But then watching it, I was like, oh no, this is pretty fun. This is a, Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, I had never seen this. I had never seen the sequel either before we covered it. And the sequel was good. I remember that we all enjoyed it. I know that there's a point where the quality dips in this franchise. So I wasn't expecting a lot. And I'll be honest, the first 20 minutes, I was like, okay. But after it hits a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm having the fucking time of my life. It is, I really, really enjoyed it. I may have enjoyed it more than the second one.
Okay.
Because the only thing that I knew about it going in were these Cenobites that we meet later on that sounded ridiculous and absurd. And they are ridiculous and absurd.
I was going to say, you can't make an excuse.
I'm not saying that they're not. I'm saying in the context of the film, and once it gets to that point, you've already bought in. I would say you either have or you have not. And I had. So I was like, oh, that's why that Cenobite does that.
Yeah.
That's why they're named that.
Yeah.
And it's not as egregious as I expected it to be. But Doug Bradley, of course, leaves no crumbs. This one, I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. And I've watched it 3 times now in preparation for this. And it was a really good time.
I was in the same boat. This is the first time I've ever seen this film. I had the same mentality going into it because I do know how much these sequels at some certain point go off the rails and really just become about retaining the rights than actually making anything worth watching.
Right.
And so I was like, when does this happen? And it's not this one. I agree. It is not.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know when it does, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed this one. I do have some issues, I will say. There is some head scratching stuff going
not
on.
perfect.
A few times.
Yeah.
But it is fun.
It is fun. I think that there are points where I feel like, oh, they're setting up something narratively by way of a character arc or something.
Yeah.
And the thing is they're not.
No.
So
One thing you got to know.
Yeah, it's not happening. But I will say, I think that for me, I really appreciated the cinematography in this film.
Okay.
There's a lot of really cool shots and camera movements.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by a couple of sequences and the way that the camera just seems to follow and the framing.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so many things in this film that just fit with the vibe and atmosphere of what you expect in a Hellraiser film.
And that's kind of like I was saying, that was my reserve before I watched it, you know what I mean? Was because, again, like you said, we meet these Cenobites and we'll get to know them later.
Yeah.
But they are for a reason. But again, I didn't remember that reason.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be good or what's going to happen. But then again, when we do meet them and we see what's going on, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not mad at that.
And it's an interesting thing because it is a holdover from basically what happens at the end of Hellbound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's continuity.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I gotta do a B squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't have a choice. I can't do all this by myself. But it's interesting choices. I do feel a little bit, at least by way of the whatever Cenobite creation machine, I think it is a little slapped together. But I do think that the thing for me is Pinhead.
Yes.
Doug Bradley, as you said, is so fantastic, and he lends such an air of like there's a class to this character.
Yeah.
And he's not lost. I feel like there comes a point, and I will at the same time, we do get more of Pinhead in this film probably than any other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I read in an interview in Fangoria, he had said, I think in the first film he had about 10 minutes of screen time. This film is
God damn.
I would say at least 50% Pinhead.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And to some, that might be successful because you get more of this character that you really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
To some, it might be almost like showing too much of the monster. A lot of people were saying that in critical analysis and on the commentary. They said some people were a little worried about that.
Yeah.
But I feel like for this film, it works because we're trying to dig into this character a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so to show not only more of Pinhead, but more of something else, to show another side and the past and the history.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's really the only way to do it.
I think in Doug Bradley's hands, because he has such a hold on who Pinhead is I feel like given the extra time, it could have been too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's so he still has his mystique, but he still has this room to stretch out and we get more.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and again, I guess we're all in the same boat. I thought it was a perfect balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. Like you're saying, we can't really get into it too much yet, but for what we get, I think it's fine. I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
And I know what I said about the narrative. That remains true for me, but the dialogue,
Yeah.
some of the lines given to him and the way that he performs them and delivers them,
Yeah.
they are so iconic and so memorable because his honestly, every single time he makes an entrance in any of these films, you're waiting for him to say something really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you know he will.
And you know that he will. But I did want to talk a little bit about the production.
Mm-hmm.
I got all of this information from a book called The Hellraiser Films and Their Legacy by Paul Kane.
Ooh.
And there were actually a couple of commentary tracks that I listened to as well to supplement a bit of this too.
Okay.
But it shouldn't surprise anyone, but discussions for Hellraiser 3 actually started in 1988 before Hellbound Hellraiser 2 had even been released.
Damn.
And I did struggle over that title because that is
It's
not...
backwards.
Yeah.
It is incorrect and it always will be. But Tony Randall, who directed Hellbound, and Peter Atkins, who wrote it, had a meeting with the executives at New World Pictures, and it was once meant to be a co-production between New World and a company called Film Futures, which was Clive Barker's and Chris Figgs's production company.
Okay.
So the story of what happens with Hellraiser 3 actually begins with a film that has nothing to do with the Hellraiser franchise, because it starts with Film Futures and Clive Barker's directorial effort, Nightbreed.
Oh.
And what happened was, unfortunately, the production costs of Nightbreed skyrocketed upwards to $20 million.
God.
And even though they had partnered with 20th Century Fox for distribution, once they got it, Fox had no idea what to do with it. And so they forced cuts, they forced reshoots, they bungled the marketing campaign and just presented it as completely what this film was not. And this resulted in poor box office performances that resulted in Film Futures shuttering.
Wow.
And at the same time, New World Pictures was going into bankruptcy.
Damn.
Shit.
And so because of all of these factors, Hellraiser 3 ends up in developmental hell.
Damn.
Because as you remember, I said in 1988 they started this.
Yeah.
But the difficulty was with all of these developments going on, there seemed to be a little bit of confusion of who had the rights to this franchise now. Barker had sold them to New World in order to get the first Hellraiser film made, but New World doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, shit.
And so, as it turned out, the rights still belonged to New World co-chairman Lawrence Kuppen, and from the ashes of New World Pictures rose a company called Transatlantic Pictures, who were keen to make another Hellraiser film.
Well, good.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of discussions and there were a lot of initial ideas when Clive Barker is still attached to the project.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them included some really interesting things that pop up in small ways in this film that we get. He had originally wanted to make it a film set in ancient Egypt,
Oh.
with the idea that the Great Pyramid was the first lament configuration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which sounds awesome.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah. But another idea that he had, which I would have preferred and which honestly this film does lack for me, is the inclusion of the character of Julia Cotton.
Of course, yeah.
She, to me, is the franchise.
Yes.
And you see there is kind of a shift. I know Pinhead was, of course, like the figure of the marketing.
Right.
And he does show up and he's a very important character. But to me, Hellraiser was always about Julia and everything that was going on there.
Right.
1000%.
So to not have her at all, and it was because Claire Higgins didn't want to do anymore.
Huh.
So they had to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out where they were going to go.
Yeah.
That's where the initial ancient Egypt idea came about. But after a while, very unfortunately, there were some disagreements between Barker and Lawrence Kuppen. And so Barker wasn't initially asked back once Transatlantic Pictures decided to take the helm.
Damn.
But this is the point when Peter Atkins rejoins the production. And he had worked on Hellbound, as I mentioned previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so his idea was to continue the story that they started there.
Yeah.
And maybe include a certain pillar that we remember.
Yeah.
But there was also a worry whenever he rejoined, because the way that Transatlantic Pictures was wanting to kind of shrink the budget, and the way that the producers are being so stingy about how long they would have for production, there were worries that a lot of their ideas that they wanted to implement wouldn't be able to go through.
Okay.
And they were getting a lot of notes from producers. One note was really, really funny because everybody was trying to, I guess, kind of pigeonhole Pinhead into a standard slasher villain kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
And so one of the producers allegedly asked, "Can't we just get Pinhead on the streets beating up youths?"
Shut the fuck up.
And we kind of do get that a little.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Some notes were taken.
Yes.
But it isn't what you would expect as far as just a standard like Jason Voorhees.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Pinhead can't be that.
Yeah.
But it was after 3 years that the first draft of the screenplay was completed in 1991.
Damn.
And there's a lot of this version that remains in what we get, but there are so many really interesting changes, and one ending that I actually think I like more than the film that we get.
Okay.
Oh.
And I will be happy to tell you about it later.
All right.
But with Atkins back aboard as screenwriter, everybody assumed that Tony Randall would also be returning as the director of the film.
Okay.
But he actually also had disagreements with the producers,
Ooh.
and they were worried that he would make the film too dark, and so they wanted to replace him.
What?
Hellraiser
Yeah, I
2
was
dark.
gonna say.
Come on.
He's like, we're making Hellraiser.
Yeah, it's Pinhead, man.
Yeah. So the actual director of the film was a guy called Anthony Hickox, and he had gained great notoriety and word of mouth in Hollywood after making Waxwork and its sequel, Waxwork 2.
Okay.
And these were both actually horror comedies, which kind of fit in with what you're thinking as far as what the producers didn't want from Tony Randall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and interestingly, Hickox comes from a filmmaking family. His mother is an Academy Award-winning editor
Oh.
who edited just a couple, Lawrence of Arabia in 1962
Damn.
and The Elephant Man in 1980.
Oh, wow.
And his father directed Theater of Blood with Vincent Price.
Damn.
Wow.
But the story that Hickox told on commentary about how he got the job is apparently people were becoming aware of his work through Waxwork and Waxwork 2, and he was in post-production of Waxwork 2, and it was having talked to one producer that talked to Lawrence Kappen, who got him a phone call. And that was it. It was just one
Wow.
phone call and just said, "Hey, you want to direct Hellraiser 3?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he only had, I think it was 6 weeks between Waxwork 2 post-production and the production beginning on Hellraiser 3.
Damn.
And so it's kind of wild. But he spoke to Clive Barker because, and I'll tell this whole story a little bit later of Clive Barker actually returning to the production at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But when he did speak to Clive Barker wasn't pleased that he would be the director of Hellraiser 3 because of the tone of his previous two films.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he only had two conditions upon wanting Hickox to direct it, which were, one, that Hellraiser won't be funny, that you won't make it funny, and two, that you would tell the story properly.
Fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like that's a fair ask.
I think
Very
that's very reasonable.
Yeah.
I will say he didn't make Hellraiser funny, but those new Cenobites, I mean,
They serve a purpose.
making me laugh.
Yeah.
Now, before we enjoy this film's suffering, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Pod Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, let's open the box. Now, this film relies heavily on having already seen Hellraiser and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. If you haven't, we suggest you go watch them, or go listen to episodes 51 and 139 of our show as a refresher. So the film opens with Christopher Young's iconic main theme for Hellraiser, which accompanies the white text of the opening credits against a black background. As the music reaches dramatic heights, we get the title in red before it gives way to flickering flames that burn into a bright white. Clive Barker presents Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth.
We love a dramatic title.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, right out the gate.
Yeah.
I will talk a little bit more about Clive Barker getting that.
Presents?
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about the music first, because this is Christopher Young's iconic theme from the first Hellraiser, used in Hellbound, but he did not score this film.
Huh.
It was actually their intention originally was to do an all rock soundtrack for the film. And they even apparently, according to that book, made the first versions of the film that way, but then test audiences fucking hated it.
Wow.
And so what they did is they brought in a composer named Randy Miller, and he was given 3 weeks to compose the score. And due to budgetary constrictions, he didn't have it recorded in America. He went to Russia, and he recorded the score with the Mosfilm State Choir.
Wow.
Damn.
And he went there for 10 days to do it. And apparently he says that they couldn't keep up with what he wanted, but also I feel like you got there and you gave them 10 days to learn an entire film score.
It's like, oh my God.
It's like, keep up. It's like, dude, no. But he had said that in a few interviews, but Paul Kane in his book, he said that something interesting about that fact is that some of the songs feel a little disjointed and discordant because a lot of times they're not completely in step because they've just learned it.
Right.
But that can also lend to some interesting feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say that I didn't feel that way at all.
No. I really enjoyed this score.
Yeah.
But following the opening credits, we fade into the night sky, dipping down to skyscrapers, the lights in their windows blotting the darkness of the evening. But with the city in the distance, the camera finds a lonely street lit by hanging lamps and the flickering flames of a fire in a nearby trash can. A car pulls onto the street, its headlights beaming at us as it parks in front of a building. We see a very red pair of boots step out of the vehicle, and we travel upward, past a pair of pants and a leather coat, to meet J.P. Monroe, played by Kevin Bernhardt.
Are we in fucking Gotham?
It's like, what is happening
Yeah.
here?
Well, he is the clown prince, this guy.
No shit.
I do want to say something real quick because the whole time I'm like, why does your name got to be JP? And I want to defend him, but I'm not going to because he's not great.
No, he's not.
He just has a great name.
No, yeah, I was like, God damn it.
I did read in that Hellraiser book that they cast him based on the fact that I think it was Hickox thought that he had the same dark good looks as Sean Chapman, who was Uncle Frank.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We get some overlap between him and Uncle Frank.
Yeah.
It's
So it's
very
like
interesting.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to say before we move on is I learned that this film was actually shot in North Carolina because of the budget. It's set in New York City.
Yeah.
And you see the sprawling city behind these buildings, but I feel like if you look really close, that's got to be a matte painting.
I was thinking the same.
There are some really good matte paintings in this film that will surprise you to learn that they are, though.
Ooh.
Okay.
And we'll get to those in a bit. But JP lights a cigarette in his mouth, peering around the empty street as a police siren wails in the distance. He then steps away from his vehicle, approaching the building that he parked in front of, and we see the name Pyramid Gallery inscribed on the windows, along with a logo befitting its name. So this name, Pyramid Gallery, is a little nod to Clive Barker's original idea.
Okay.
Oh, I
all
love
right.
that.
But JP opens the door and lets himself inside. Once there, in the dimly lit gallery, JP walks around casually, smoking his cigarette as he creeps past sculptures, artifacts, and paintings. As the camera follows behind him, he doesn't seem to notice a large object rotating just behind him in the background, the sight of which is accentuated by an eerie flourish in the score. JP stops for a moment, observing his surroundings as the smoke rises from his cigarette. But the grinding sound of the object's rotation gets JP's attention, and he turns around to discover a large rectangular pillar made of stone, with languished limbs, tortured torsos, and fearful faces carved out of it, bodies intertwined, conjoined, stretched, anguished, and lining its sinful structure on every single side as it continues its revolution. As it rotates, JP notices not only the stoic face of a bald man etched into one side, but also what appears to be a very familiar puzzle box jutting halfway out of the stone.
Shit.
Okay.
Yeah. I will say, if you recall the end of Hellbound,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be the same thing that we saw.
Yeah.
Right.
With those tiny skeletons making it sweet and all that stuff going on. It's had an upgrade.
Yes.
Clearly. And I think that this, for as much as we see this thing, it needs to look different.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
JP is transfixed by this discovery, but a voice interrupts his admiration of the object, asking, "You want it?" The camera pans over to a man credited as Bum, played by Lawrence Mortorf. So Lawrence Mortorf also produced this film, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Hickox, I read, said that the amount of extra people in this, he said that there were so many friends and friends of friends, and that anybody who was interested in being in this and could remotely act, he was letting in this. So yeah, he's the producer.
That's really cool, though.
It is. I will say this is meant to be a person that we've seen twice before.
Yeah.
May or may not have turned into a gargoyle
And
flew away.
Are we just conveniently forgetting that part?
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, and this is a little bit of continuity that's a bit of a problem, is I have referenced a bald man etched into the stone of this pillar.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to him several times. But if you remember at the end of Hellbound, if I'm not mistaken, this dude was also in that pillar because the film ends with him asking the whole, "What's your pleasure, sir?"
Right. Well, he got out.
And now he owns a gallery?
He made a deal.
Yeah.
We'll just get past it, I guess. But JP asks the man if the sculpture is his, and he responds cryptically, "No, not mine, yours."
So it's just a red flag. Right?
Yeah.
I'll see you later. I don't need anything this bad.
Just walked in here.
Yeah.
JP responds in silent disbelief before turning back to the structure to give it another look. In an exhale, he returns his eyes to the man, asking how much he wants for it. The man says that he'll take whatever JP thinks it's worth. JP rummages through his coat pockets, fishing out a wad of cash. He peels off a few bills and hands it to the man, but as he does, the man seizes JP's hands in his fingerless gloves clutched tightly as he tells JP that this is exactly the figure he had in mind.
Listen.
Never mind.
I understand that people in artistic spaces have kind of a reputation of being kind of quirky or eccentric or whatever. This man is horrifying. He has blinked. He's got these striking blue eyes. He's blinked one time in this entire conversation. The fact that the first thing when he came over wasn't, "Hey, don't smoke around the art." It's no good. Like there's a disconnect here. Something is weird.
Yeah. And what's your return policy?
Yeah.
Like, well, you're very eager to get rid of this.
Yes.
Whatever you want to pay.
Yeah.
But he smiles and offers JP one closing remark. Take pleasure in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
JP looks a bit unnerved, but as he walks away, the camera presses into the pillar, and we get a closer look at the bald man carved out of stone on one of its sides. We see that lightly etched into the flesh of his face is a symmetrical grid.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Before we move on from this art exhibit or this museum, gallery.
Yeah.
I got there. At one point, I think it's when JP is looking at the tower, there's a painting behind him that has a man or a figure. I think he's red and kind of crouched down. I was wondering if it was a nod to Frank.
Okay.
Because it did kind of conjure, the skinless version.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that. There's a much more direct reference later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that one, that's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either. Everything looks really cool in here.
It does.
Yes.
But we then hear the voice of Joey Summerskill, a reporter played by Terry Farrell, before cutting to a shot of her face, tinged in blue on a small monitor.
So Terry Farrell, I remembered her from Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield from '86. But it looks like she did a lot of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, like a lot. Like she's a character on there. Lieutenant Commander, I forget the name, but I was like, God damn.
Damn.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. She was also on Becker.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that Ted Danson?
Yeah.
So random.
I've seen a few episodes of that. Yeah.
Just dabbled.
Yeah.
Hickox had said that he wanted her for waxwork, but she was working on something else and she wasn't available. So he told her if he had another lead role that he needed filled, he would contact her. So he did for this, and obviously she accepted. I read that they ended up dating for a while after this too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that he like kind of had a thing for dating his lead. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to comment, but I knew enough about it to spill a little tea.
Right. I will say he was very complimentary on the director's commentary.
Good.
He had said that she apparently, I probably related to Star Trek, does a lot of convention circuits, like Comic-Cons and stuff.
Okay.
And said that she knows how to work a room and that she is a very, very personable person.
Okay.
Well, she's really good in this.
Yeah.
She's great in this. There is something that is set up in this scene that is so good in the original ending of the film.
Okay.
So I cannot wait to tell you about it, but I want that from her. But what we get from her is fantastic.
She's
Yeah.
great. And even this introduction, I'm like, I like her already.
Yeah.
She could only go down from this.
But holding a microphone and dressed in a smart pantsuit, standing in front of a diagram of a skeleton, Joey records a stand-up for a news package. She states that most nights, this inner-city emergency room would be a chaos of blood, panic, and grace under pressure. But she explains that tonight, as the viewer can see, it's as if death took a holiday. She admits that it's a mystery to her. A mystery how those assholes at Assignment knew it. She signs off that this is Joey Summerskill, Channel 8, Emergency Room. Very bored. No story. No life. Really, really pissed off.
Yo, you're live.
Yeah. You're on air.
Yeah.
But yeah, just from that, I was like, oh, she's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already like her a lot. But she drops her microphone with a heavy sigh, alerting Doc, her cameraman played by Ken Carpenter, to break it down. It's a wrap.
So Ken Carpenter, he also has a bit of a presence. For me anyway, I was like, man, I want to see what you've done. I was like, because you seem like you would, you know what I mean?
He does.
Yeah. So looking, I see that he did Blood Games in 90, Tammy and the T-Rex in 94, and The Terror at Big Bear Lake, the Thrillology in
Interesting.
2011. Yeah.
Very cool.
They did mention on commentary that he was also in Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes.
And we just brought up Phantom of the Paradise with another actor in a recent episode.
We did.
How cool.
Yeah.
But a blonde nurse, played by Sharon Hill, stands silently next to Doc as he lowers the camera from his shoulder, soothing Joey, telling her to rein it in, as there's no way that they could have known. Joey understands, but sarcastically remarks that it's so neat that her first gig that isn't a kindergarten class or diet gurus gets taken away from her. Doc, with his long hair and partially gray handlebar mustache, agrees that it's like Joey said. It's a mystery. And that's all it is, a mystery, not malice. He asks her if she really thinks that the station bought off every accident victim in the city. But behind him, the blonde nurse creeps over to a drawer, retrieving a long forked instrument and resting it on a white towel, the music swelling around her as she adds more medical tools to the towel.
What do we call those medical tools? Those are very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, what is happening?
See, this feels like we're setting up like prior knowledge in a conspiracy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was like, is that Heath Ledger's Joker back there? Like, it didn't look like she was doing anything good.
No, and they hadn't really talked to her either.
No.
Is she a ghost of this hospital? Or I did hear on commentary that the way that the tools are being arranged is actually an homage to Cronenberg's Dead Ringers.
Oh.
Okay.
And very interestingly, the actress who plays this nurse, Sharon Hill, she worked on the casting department of this film with her husband, who also appears later in the film. But they also both appeared in George Romero's Dawn of the Dead as zombies.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I guess they got really friendly with George Romero because they're also from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But Joey and Doc are interrupted when Doc's cell phone rings. He picks it up, telling the person on the other end to speak. A woman's voice alerts him that he needs to go to 24th and Cedar, fast, as there's a hostage situation. Doc asks if Joey can come with him, as she's already here, but the voice on the other end tells him that there's no need for Joey, as a guy called Martin is already there, and she tells Doc to hurry, as they've got an ambulance to beat. Doc gets off the phone, and a wounded Joey tells Doc that he better hurry. It's a real story with a real reporter. Before she can walk away, Doc kindly asks to take her home, but Joey responds that he'll miss the money shots, assuring him not to worry and that she'll just catch a bus.
I already like this dynamic. I don't like how Joey is clearly being treated in this situation, or if, like, she's the newbie and she's, you know, whatever, if it's because she's a woman. I don't know what the situation is. I do like that Doc is in her corner, but it did make me laugh that they're like, it's a hostage situation, and the ambulance is on its way, and he's like, can I give you a ride?
I can wait.
Yeah. With her friends.
And
I know.
and that's the other thing that shows his character. He's prioritizing.
Yeah.
But the nurse continues adding to the towel with more menacing metal medical equipment as Doc tells Joey to be careful. He exits the emergency room and he comments optimistically that the story of Joey's life could be right around the corner. But as soon as he leaves, Joey answers that this is the story of her life.
No, I have a feeling that Doc is right.
Yeah. But Joey appears concerned as the nurse then adds a large metal saw to the table, her fingers caressing its handle.
What are y'all about to do?
I don't know. After hours at the hospital is fucking terrifying.
We need to get out of here.
But Joey then exits the emergency room, the camera finding her down a long, lowly lit hallway. After a moment, she cautiously walks towards the door at the other end, the score punctuating the limited light fixtures when they shine above her through the darkness.
I was like, is she dreaming, or is this Haddonfield Memorial? What hospital is this?
I think horror movie hospitals just have a different kind of criteria.
Yeah.
Well, they should be inspected or something.
But suddenly, a gurney bursts the doors open, wheeled by two paramedics played by Robert C. Trevelyan and Christopher Frederick. The man on the gurney, played by Lawrence Cuppen, clings to life with a mask over his face.
That's funny. Not the clinging to life.
He's almost dead, guys. LOL.
Who's playing it?
Yeah. But long metallic chains drag behind him across the hospital floor, leaving a trail of blood in their wake. Terry, a young woman played by Paula Marshall, follows the paramedics, frantically fretting that it wasn't her fault.
So Paula Marshall, I recognized her from Malignant in 2021. But it looked like she did Warlock, the Armageddon in 93, and Cheaper by the Dozen in 03.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She's done a lot of stuff, and we did talk about her in Malignant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hate that when I see her, the first thing I think is how they had her pooping in the hot tub on Nip Tuck.
Again, that was just the downhill writing.
I know.
They saw a viral video online and they're like, let's just do that.
We'll do that. Everybody's talking about it already.
She was on Hearts and Scalpels on the show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another credit for her, I think. But the red and blue lights of the ambulance flash through the windows as Joey looks on in shock, the chains clattering against the tile as the man seizes her jacket, whispering through the mask, "Help me." Terry continues that this has nothing at all to do with her, but we watch as the chains wrap around Joey's ankle, the music rising tensely as it slices her, leaving a fresh wound as the young man is wheeled into the emergency room.
That was negligent.
Yeah.
The hospital's going to have to pay for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This place is in shambles.
Yeah. And it's great that this wound will come up,
I
right?
know.
Yeah.
I know.
I honestly forgot about it until I just read it again.
Yeah.
Really? But Terry is stopped at the door by an uncredited nurse, pleading with her and whoever will listen not to hurt the young man. But after Joey inspects the slice at her ankle, she rises to her feet, marching over to the door through the trail of the man's blood to gain access to the room. She calls out to Terry to wait, sharing that she's a reporter, and as she grabs her by the shoulders, she demands to know what happened to the man. The uncredited nurse gives an unnecessarily breathy and anguished performance, telling both women, "I'm sorry, you can't go in."
She took her moment.
She's like, "Look, I have one line.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best goddamn line you've ever heard in your life." Terry turns to make a hasty exit, but Joey chases after her, asking her once again what happened. Terry faces her, flustered, quavering that she wasn't even with that guy. She was just there. When Joey asks where, Terry tells her, the boiler room. She asks if she can leave, but Joey pleads to know where and what the boiler room is. But suddenly, lights begin to flash wildly in the emergency room, getting Joey's attention. She rushes for the door as Terry exits the hospital, but when Joey reaches the room, she sees the man laying supine on the gurney, the once dragging chains now pulled taut above him, blue electricity rushing through them as he writhes and wriggles, screaming as he's electrocuted. The hospital staff cowers as the chains, which we now see are hooked into the man's flesh, pull tighter, stretching the skin of his face as he shakes violently. We get a tight shot of Joey's very blue and very fearful eyes as she watches in horror. She gasps, but suddenly, the man's head explodes as it is torn apart by the chains, a pool of blood collecting on the floor from his dripping wounds as a nurse slides down a wall to the floor, sobbing.
I don't think he's going to make it.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The funniest thing in the world is the next shot is the flatline. It's like, oh, we
Just
need
so
it.
you know.
Yeah. He's not coming
Not
back.
the head blowing up.
No.
It's the flat line.
Yeah. It's like, all right.
Oh,
He's
he did it.
gone.
Yeah.
Oh. But Joey collapses and she crawls through the door of the emergency room back into the hall, regaining her footing as she leans against a wall, coughing incessantly.
So that was a lot, Robin.
Yeah.
I was not expecting any of that to happen right now.
Mhm.
I mean, Doc was right. A great story was right around the corner.
Yeah.
But it is, and I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves or anything, it is astounding to me that this is not more of a situation going forward.
Yeah.
I see clearly that this hospital does not, tonight it did not get a lot of business and it does not seem very well tended to. But no, we're not going to talk about this at all, and we're not going to believe people that this happened.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
I know that Joey seems to care only in regard to just trying to figure out, but there is no, and again, this is a news station
Yes.
that she works for. They're not even like, well, let's get a good reporter on it.
Yeah.
No,
it's just nothing.
It never comes up for the station.
Or call and be like, you guys aren't going to believe what the fuck just happened here.
Yeah.
Something. I think that aspect of it, like I said, the first 20 minutes was kind of like, I don't know. Rewatching it, I enjoy it because I understand the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, especially this sequence, was a dream. The way that it moves so quickly, it was so over the top, and then kind of nothing comes of this particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this can't have actually happened in the context of reality in this film, but it does.
It does appear dreamlike.
Yeah.
Even the weird moments with the nurse.
Yeah.
Yes. And the flickering lights in the fucking hospital hallway and getting whipped by that chain in a hospital and nobody gives a fuck. And then that very breathy performance.
Yeah.
Like you said, it did not feel real, but it is. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
But we fade into an advertisement on the interior of a bus, and under a buzzing and flickering light, it reads, "Prepare for the second coming, Church of the Resurgence," complete with a telephone number, 1-800-NEW-GODS, and letting the reader know that they are accepting credit card donations.
Of course they are.
So this, I didn't know if they were kind of setting up like a group of people that we could, kind of meet later that would be like antagonistic or something.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it is just kind of foreshadowing.
I think so.
Yeah.
But the camera pans across the seats, past a man who is fast asleep, his long beard caked in vomit, past an empty seat, and to Joey, who sits pensively in the dim light. The peaceful sound of rain pattering against the window is violently interrupted, however, when a man suddenly bangs against Joey's window, startling her.
Not after today.
No.
Yeah.
Not after what I just went through.
No.
This is to no consequence, though, as Joey just settles back into her seat and we watch as the bus speeds away through the streets of New York City. So this shot is actually New York City.
Okay.
Oh.
Hickox said, and I don't know if he was joking on commentary, but he was like, yeah, just imagine me and I think he said Times Square just with a camera and cars whizzing past me. So I'm like, did you film that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
But we then dip down from the New York skyline in the blue dawn of day before cutting to a television screen at an editing bay in the news station. Brad, played by Philip Hyland, rewinds an old interview Joey conducted with an uncredited author. In the grainy footage, Joey crosses her legs, seated on a couch across from her interviewee, asking her to tell her about her book. Brad rewinds the tape again, disappointed, directing Joey's attention to the footage, telling her that her technique is all wrong. Joey switches off the TV, asking what he means, and Brad explains that she's hardly showing any thigh. An inch more, and the bosses upstairs will get hot, and bingo, she's an anchor woman.
Gross.
Very.
But I'm watching the news, man. I don't understand. What are you talking about?
No, I rolled my eyes so hard they fell out of my head.
He leans back into his chair, satisfied with his assessment, but Doc, who is seated nearby, urges Brad to give Joey a break. Joey expresses, possibly to Brad's surprise, that she wants to do this the right way. Tight stories, not tight skirts. Brad replies sarcastically, asking if she means like last night's news. Joey defends herself, confident that she knows what she saw, but Brad reminds her that this is TV. No pictures, no story. But Joey assures him that there is a story out there.
Why was there no documentation of what happened? I was
yeah.
It made zero sense to me. And I'm like, after you experienced what you saw last night, you're casually in the office the next day arguing about the length of your skirt.
Yeah.
I'd be like, everybody fucking listen to me. Like, I can't imagine just going back to normal the next morning.
No, but literally she's on a bus. She's like, I guess I'll go to sleep in my apartment.
Yeah, I got work in the morning.
And even there, it's assumed that she did bring it up earlier.
Yes.
But why doesn't she say there were about 8 medical personnel in there
Yeah.
that we can interview unless they're also all dead?
Oh.
In which
look
case,
at this chain wound on my
leg
ankle.
that I am not talking about.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason.
That did happen.
Yeah.
That's proof.
But we cut immediately to the large metal sign outside of the boiler room, fire raging behind it in a dramatic display. I will say I did read in that book, in the original screenplay, it was not called The Boiler Room. It was called Under the Underground.
Okay.
Boiler Room.
Yeah,
right?
boiler room. it
Boiler
is,
room's
yeah.
better. Or sex cauldron.
I thought they closed that place down. But inside, Joey makes her way into the nightclub after paying $10 at the door and having the doors opened for her by a pair of tuxedo-clad bouncers. Soup Dragon's Divine Thing plays loudly as Joey makes her way through a cloud of clubgoers, surveying the display of odd decorations hanging from the ceiling. We see a baby doll, all clad in leather, surrounded by sharp instruments and a ring of barbed wire, as well as a mess of mannequin limbs and wigs under flashing purple and orange lights.
I will say, nothing against the music. I do enjoy it. I just don't feel like this is what would be playing with what we're seeing the vibe of the club is.
I agree. I like the music. But yeah, I feel like this whole place is disjointed. The tuxedos, the uniforms that the bartenders are wearing. We see a restaurant later. Like, nothing feels like it fits together.
The restaurant is very confusing to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I agree with you with what you're saying. This feels like an industrial club.
Yes.
Play some 9 Inch Nails.
For sure.
You know, something along those lines. Skinny
Yeah.
Puppy, I believe they're called.
But also, too, if I'm Joey and I'm trying to get more information and I'm going to a club called the Boiler Room, I probably would not be dressed the way she's dressed.
So they all fit right in.
Yeah.
She's never done investigative journalism, it seems.
No.
One thing I will say about this club is that it was actually an old furniture factory in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
And they outfitted it to look like this club. And it's used quite a few times in this film.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And just a credit to the great work of the production designer, Steve Hardy. He actually also did the production design for Nightbreed for Clive Barker, but he also did Waxwork 2 for Hickox.
How cool. He's really good on Family Feud, too.
All right. Close enough. Survey says. They said on commentary that the extras were all North Carolina locals.
Okay.
And Steve Jones, who was the publicist for the film, as well as a few casting directors, kind of just went out and they went to like grocery stores and were passing out flyers. And they were basically like, hey, you want to hang out with Pinhead?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who Pinhead was.
Yeah.
And so they were like, hell yeah, we do. And so it was like 2 days that were spent filming here. And we'll come back later to a lot of other people and things that happen. But they had said that they gave a list of requirements for all of the people that showed up as extras. Some of it was like no facial hair allowed. And so sometimes people would show up on set and they would shave them on set to put them into the scenes.
Yeah.
But they also had to wear club-worthy gear. And the producers were saying, you it was like Rickety Cricket's like, you gotta make it sexy, otherwise. But they said that they wanted to make the club sexier and sexier, and it was a note from the producers that kept coming up. And so you do see some topless women a little bit later on, which is befitting of a club like this. Probably not so much the furniture factory that it was filmed in.
I mean, unless you're JD Vance.
Well, all right.
Maybe cut that out.
No, we'll leave it in. He needs to know that everyone knows. But the camera arcs around Joey as she makes her way to random tables, the music drowning out her introductions as she passes out business cards. She finally walks over to the bar, where another sign for the establishment burns brightly overhead, as Rick the barman, played by Peter Atkins, turns to face her. Yes, the screenwriter.
That's hilarious.
Any relation to Tom?
Not that I know of.
No.
If only.
Yeah.
Although there is a very Tom Atkins moment coming up that I have to tell you about.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
But Rick places a drink in front of her, and I think it was a flaming Moe. Or a flaming Homer, more accurately. Because it burns brightly as soon as it makes contact with the bar. But Rick asks if he can help her, and as soon as she tells him that she's looking for a pretty girl, Rick directs her to the other side of the club, where he says that she can find J.P. Monroe. But Joey walks through another section of the club, a rather lively concert taking place, people dancing and stage lights flashing as the band Armored Saint, as themselves, perform the song Hanging Judge. And I will say on commentary, that is one of the things that they talked about, is this kind of music dating the film a little bit.
Yeah.
And where it is very particular for a certain era.
Yeah. But I do like this.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, this alone is worth the $10 admission.
Yeah.
But with the music blaring through the speakers, Joey makes her way over to the DJ booth, where she meets CD, the DJ, played by Brent Bolthouse. She tells him that she's looking for a girl with dark hair, dark eyes, really, really pretty. She adds that she heard that this girl might be JP's girlfriend, which she didn't hear that, by the way.
Yeah.
But CD tells her that a woman called Terry fits this description and says that if it's her, Joey should go talk to JP, who should be in the restaurant. We cut abruptly to a restaurant, panning across candlelit tables filled with well-dressed guests, while classical violins contribute to the classy atmosphere.
I was like, what the fuck is this place?
Yeah.
And it's like it's separated by a wall.
Yeah.
You would hear the club.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a live band playing.
Yeah.
JP sits at a table surrounded by uncredited women, excitedly taking their pictures with a Polaroid. Joey's voice climbs over the violins to finally get JP's attention after a few attempts, and when he finally turns to face her, she asks him if he owns the place. He confirms this, adding, "and everything in it," as he caresses the face of a woman next to him.
All right.
He's sleazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joey explains that she's looking for a girl called Terry, handing him her business card, and after describing her yet again, JP sits there silently, picking up a rose from the table and extending it toward Joey. Joey quips that she's probably not JP's type as she's out of grade school. She smirks and leaves the table, but JP laughs at her, crumpling up her business card.
I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to call you now, Joey.
Yeah.
Now call me if you have any more.
Yeah. Right, fuck this rose, but call me.
Yeah. I was
You
like,
think
man.
like your sources are supposed to...
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is we do learn that this rose is his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very strangely, we do see Terry, and she's sitting at a nearby table, apparently having watched it all happen. But instead of doing or saying anything, she just watches Joey leave as she nervously clutches her cigarette.
When I rewatched this, you see her sitting at one of the tables when we pan over.
Oh, really?
To find Joey talking to JP. Yeah. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't linger or anything. She's just, you see the back of her head. She's just sitting there.
Yeah.
But in a flash of white, we suddenly find ourselves in the jungles of Vietnam. Accompanied by the sound of a child's laughter, soldiers exchange fire, an American helicopter hovering above the battle. Among the American soldiers, several lie wounded in the grass, including Joey's father, played by Peter G. Boynton. I will say I did hear on commentary, among these wounded soldiers is a cameo from Anthony Hickox.
Okay.
But more soldiers are fired upon as they try to direct the chopper down for a landing, and Joey's father stretches his arm outward to it from the ground. Joey stands in the field, her white nightgown billowing in the wind as the camera pulls back from her father's futile cries for rescue. She watches distraught as the helicopter ascends, pleading with the pilots that her father is still alive and begging them to come back and save her daddy. But a telephone rings, waking Joey up in her bed at home. This was very abrupt and surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire sequence was very shocking to me. I didn't expect to see any of that.
No.
Yeah.
I did hear that these sequences were an homage to Apocalypse Now and Platoon, as well as Born on the 4th of July.
Okay.
And a lot of critics were saying that you can see these influences very clearly. I couldn't because I've never seen any of these films.
Right.
I will say, Born on the 4th of July, my aunt was an extra in that movie.
Really? That's wild. One thing I will say is something that Kane brought up in his book was the prevailing theme of war in this film. And I think that it is a very interesting thing because it does come up a lot through different eras as we continue.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I don't know that enough is really done with it as far as to make a theme out of it. I think it's just kind of a facet of the film that we see.
Right.
Yeah.
There are some interesting and poignant lines that'll come from a character later, but I feel like if I don't think that you need to explore all of that for this, and they didn't. And so I think what they did is fine.
Yeah.
But Joey switches on her lamp on her nightstand and answers the phone. A voice asks on the other end if she's speaking to Joanne Summerskill, and Joey answers sleepily that she is. But she rises swiftly from her bed when she realizes that she's speaking with Terry. Terry asks very casually what she wants, and Joey first asks her not to hang up and reminds her that they met the other night at the hospital. Joey struggles to get her feet into her slippers on the floor as Terry proposes a deal. Her boyfriend just threw her out, so she'll talk to her if Joey can give her a place to crash for the night. Joey can't believe that Terry means tonight, and Terry confirms that she does, asking if Joey has a guy there or something. But Joey assures her that she doesn't and asks her to come over now, admitting that she was actually having bad dreams anyway.
She doesn't give her an address.
No.
It's very casual the way that what do you have a guy there or what?
Yeah.
The way that they're talking to each other kind of made me laugh because the only other time we've ever spoken was in a very fucking horrible moment.
That is true. But later on, Terry arrives at Joey's apartment. Her top shimmers as she peers out of the large window in the living room to observe the city lights. Terry asks Joey what her dream was about before sitting down casually on her couch. Joey brings over a couple cups of coffee as she explains that her dream wasn't a nightmare or anything. She actually knows exactly what it is.
That wasn't a nightmare?
Yeah. The camera arcs around Terry as she's handed a cup of coffee and asks eagerly what the dream was then. Joey sits down across from her as the main theme sounds in the score. Joey explains that it was about her father. and Terry asks a very personal question, which Joey quickly denies, elaborating that her father died in Vietnam before she was born, and they don't know the details, but that she often dreams of death and trying to save him. This impresses Terry, who remarks, "Man, that's great," which offends Joey because what?
Yeah.
But Terry clarifies that she doesn't mean what happened to Joey's father is great, but she shares the fact that she doesn't dream. She never has. The music rises eerily as Terry stands up from the couch, walking around it and suggesting that maybe it would help if she slept sometime. She nervously adds that she's just kidding, but says that it's just really neat for her to hear about dreams because she's jealous of everyone who seems to have another world to live in except for her.
I was like, what is this dialogue?
Yeah.
She's very nervous. And maybe the screenwriter was as well.
Yeah. Gotta have this hypnosil here.
Not hypnosil. I was like, it's very clunky, but also it's like, do you guys think that maybe she's going to dream by the end of this?
Yeah. We're setting up her arc right now.
Yeah.
But Terry sinks into a chair, sighing that it's just her bag, and a series of shithead boyfriends. But that it would be nice to see something else, to have a nighttime world. But she stands up again, making her way over to a spiral staircase in Joey's apartment, adding that this is great though, just two girls having a conversation over good coffee. Terry takes a seat on the staircase, asking Joey if she has a cigarette. The hostess obliges, picking up an ashtray and a pack of cigarettes, but lingering for a moment as both objects rest in front of a photograph of her father on the side table. Joey joins Terry on the stairs with a pack of cigarettes, and after Terry gratefully snags one, she asks Joey if she's gonna have one. Joey declines, sharing that she's trying to quit, but at Terry's insistence, she snags one, and Terry lights it for her, asking, "What, you think you're gonna live forever?" As Terry breathes deep and exhales, Joey notices the matchbook that Terry used to light the cigarette. It's from the boiler room. After realizing Joey's discovery, Terry understands what Joey probably wants to talk about. Joey levels with Terry, revealing that something terrible happened to that boy, and she has to know what it was. But Terry rushes away from the stairs and back over to the drapes, tearing them open as she explains that when she came out of the club, the kid was already lying in the street. Joey asks if she knew him, and Terry says that she didn't, before immediately admitting that she did see him at the club a couple of times. But she says that she never danced with him or anything. Besides, she says, he was a thief, commenting that he must have taken it from the statue. Joey asks what she means, and Terry just says, "That thing." She says that he was lying in the street, moaning and just pointing at him. Joey asks where the chains came from, and Terry explains that that's what she's trying to tell her. She then rifles through her bag, tossing several items of clothing aside until she finds it. Holding it outward to Joey, Terry reveals that the kid said it came out of this. And there, in her hand, crusted with stone from the sculpture, is our old friend, the familiar puzzle box that we saw before and have seen before. The Lament configuration.
First of all, shout out to Anthony Jerome M, because every time I see this, I laugh because of his joke about breathing on it too hard and it solves itself. But why would you take this?
And honestly, we saw the statue. It was one of many things in that thing.
Yeah.
Well, he was pointing to it specifically.
It must have called out to him or something, and it's like, take the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise...
Why would she take it?
Yeah.
Because it's clearly important.
Yeah, okay.
It's important to the plot that Joey has it.
Can we leave it outside?
We
Please.
should. I got a patio out here.
Yeah, we'll put it over there.
But in the bowels of the boiler room, inside his apartment, JP smokes a cigarette, peering over a railing. But behind him, a gurgling sound emanates from his peculiar purchased pillar. He makes his way over to it, eyeing what appears to be a naked woman etched into the stone, clutching her breasts, only her head is elongated like an extraterrestrial. He leans closer to the structure, and upon noticing a hole within its facade, JP slowly reaches his fingers into it, then his entire hand up to the wrist, wriggling around in the darkness, in search of what I do not know.
And I was like, what a dumbass thing to do.
Yeah. Why? I don't see a dark hole and think, I'm going to put my hand in there.
No.
I'm not going to look. I'm just going to put it in there and feel around.
Maybe shine a light.
Yeah.
Yeah, for starters.
I will say Hickox said that this is an homage to a scene from Flash Gordon, of all things.
Okay.
And he said that it just the sight of it in Flash Gordon frightened him when he was younger, and so he wanted to put it in here.
Fair enough.
Okay.
But instead of finding anything, something finds him. And with a growl, we hear something latch onto his hand with a crunch. JP screams wildly in pain, pulling his hand from the hole, a rodent squealing and chewing on his flesh. As he struggles against it, his blood splashes against the pillar in slow motion, painting its weathered stone in long spatters. Once he finally shakes the rodent off and it goes flying across the room, which is wild.
Yeah.
And honestly, you got lucky with just a rat.
Yeah.
Yes. But once it goes flying across the room, JP watches in confusion as his blood trickles across the structure, finding its way into the mouth of the bald man carved into it. And once he's had his fill, the symmetrical grid on the man's head glows bright with electricity. JP responds with, "Whoa."
I put, what do you mean, whoa?
Yeah.
It is awe-inspiring, I will say, but that is not the reaction to have.
No, and there was swallowing sounds.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
No. It's like, I got a deal on this statue, man. But we return to Joey's apartment, and after panning through the smoke and across the kitchen countertops stacked with poorly sliced vegetables, shattered eggshells, and an ashtray filled with cigarette butts, we find Terry standing in front of the sizzling stovetop, pawing at an absolute mistake of a breakfast inside of a pan with a spatula.
She tried.
Yeah.
A for effort.
Yeah.
Joey enters the room just as two blackened pieces of bread rocket out of the toaster. She coughs, waving away the smoke, asking with a sarcastic smile if she slept through an earthquake. Terry turns to face her, holding a cookbook and smoking a cigarette, sharing that she thought that she'd make breakfast. Joey feigns gratitude, asking if Terry's culinary exploits are always this exploratory, and Terry just shrugs, a bit embarrassed, and admitting that she's kind of a kitchen virgin. This is the first time she's ever made breakfast.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Joey chuckles, offering to boil some water for them, and when Terry attempts to head her off at the pass, Joey says that she doesn't mind boiling water. Actually, she loves it. It's a specialty of hers. She then suggests that Terry go watch some cartoons instead of cooking, and Terry exits the kitchen, wandering around Joey's apartment, peeking around and complimenting the place. She asks if Joey owns it, and as she fills a kettle with water and puts it on the stove, Joey shares that the bank owns it, but she's working on it. Terry says that she hasn't had a place of her own since she was 15, before ascending the sill to stare out of Joey's apartment window, admiring the view. So, something I did learn on commentary. This city is a matte painting.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, and Hickox credited the cinematographer with how it looks because he said it did not look good in real life.
It looks fine on the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
And even at night, he said what they did is they would poke holes in it and shine lights through it.
Brilliant.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
The cinematographer, just for the record, was Jerry Lively, and he shot both Waxwork and its sequel for Hickox.
Okay.
Excellent.
There's a lot of him using a lot of people that he's used to working with,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic. We always love to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Lively also shot Hellraiser Bloodline in 1996. He also shot the video for Hellraiser by Motorhead,
Awesome.
which was directed by Clive Barker.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
And he shot Friday.
Holy shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But Terry invites Joey over to come take a look. But Joey is obviously very familiar with the view, but concurs that it is very nice. She suggests Terry look over to the left because there she can see But Terry turns around to face her with a very worried look in her eyes, her voice trembling that she loves it here. Joey levels with Terry, the pseudo-serenity of the morning broken, as Joey reminds her that she has to solve this thing, and she brings up what Terry mentioned last night about a statue. Terry says that she found it and she knew that he'd like it. Joey wonders if he is the kid from the hospital, but Terry reveals that she means JP, her last boyfriend. He's the one who bought the statue. Joey steps closer to Terry, asking where she found it, and Terry explains that there's a really hip store with weird shit in it. And when she saw the statue, she knew that JP would love it, considering the vibe of the boiler room. Joey asks if she'd know this place if she saw it again, and Terry asks why. This is when Joey answers her simply with a smile. We're going shopping.
I do enjoy that she is like, no, I know where this is. I know what it is. Instead of being like, I don't know, we can try to find it, or I don't remember. But she's like, oh, no, I know exactly where the fuck we're going.
Yeah, and I was like, it makes sense that he pulled up, like, ready to buy.
Yeah.
Because she had already told him about it. Because at the beginning, it's like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I will say, and this is kind of the beginning of what continues a little bit, but then doesn't continue in the way that I wanted or hoped it would. This and their interactions and their dynamic together, I feel very much chemistry between Joey and Terry.
Yes.
Enough to begin something of a love arc between them.
Right.
I have in my notes, I feel like you guys are teasing me with the love story and then you keep snatching it away.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even from the phone call, from then, I was like, oh, I see where this is going. Okay, maybe not. No, they are. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah, and it's cute because she's making the breakfast.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like rom-com-y.
Absolutely.
But then just,
Yeah, no, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
No.
disappointing.
Don't get your hopes up like I did.
Yeah. But the women arrive at the Pyramid Gallery, both dressed very cool and very 90s.
Yeah.
I was like, I want every outfit in this movie.
They approach the front door, but when they find that it's locked, Joey supposes that they might be closed for the day. But from across the street, Bob, played by George Lee, who is walking a very tiny black poodle and is dressed suspiciously like Andy Warhol, he calls out that they're closed every day, as the owner's been in Hawaii for about a month. Terry calls bullshit, considering JP bought something there last week. Joey asks Bob if he's sure, and Bob absolutely is, citing the fact that not only has he lived here for 20 years, but he sees everything. He turns to walk away, dragging his little pup with him, who yelps and growls at the women, and we never see him again.
Well, that dog was trying to warn them.
He was. The dog's okay, but what's this Bob character?
I don't know.
Joey laments the dead end that they've encountered, but Terry, popping a cigarette into her mouth, reminds Joey that there is a back door. And pulling a bobby pin from her bra, she boasts that in 5 seconds, they'll be browsing.
It's giving Gail Weathers would find a way.
It's always good to have a hood rat friend. Even if just one.
But we cut inside of the Pyramid Gallery. 5 seconds or so later, Joey and Terry scoping out the place as they wander around. Accompanied by an eerie rumble in the score, the camera pans across various paintings of howling faces, twisted bodies, as well as wooden shelves and cobweb-covered furniture. Joey admits that she didn't know this place would be like this, but Terry remarks that these places are always all show. Joey asks if she breaks into a lot of art galleries, and Terry shares that when it's raining and you need a place to sleep, you'll break in anywhere. They are doing a lot of work in the screenplay to very, very much endear you to Terry.
Yeah.
And so you become very invested in her character and everything that happens to her. And so, again, I will say that it does have an emotional weight as we continue with what does happen.
Yeah.
Which was surprising to me. But Joey sits down at a desk and starts to investigate. She opens a drawer, passing a file folder over to Terry, who asks her what they're looking for. Joey answers, anything, contacts, clues, anything. But Joey snags a folder herself to look through, But literally 1 second after opening it, she complains, "Oh, this is going to take forever." It's like, maybe that's why you don't get any assignments.
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't know.
The more we get to know Joey, you're burning your contacts.
Yeah.
You don't like research.
You don't want to research.
Yeah. You just got here.
But as she flips through the papers, she asks Terry how much she thinks JP paid for the statue. Terry supposes correctly, whatever it took. But when she asks why, Joey reveals that this place is a scam. She says that half of the pieces sold here were picked up for pennies from places like high school art classes and bankruptcy sales. And through her research, Terry adds, and closed down lunatic asylums. She then finds a section of her files labeled Property of the Chenard Institute.
What?
Interesting. The scorer joins her discovery with a flourish as she holds up rough sketches of what appear to be the lament configuration. She recognizes it, and upon getting Joey's attention, tells her, "Check it out. It's the box." And then she giggles for some reason. I'm like, this is not funny at all.
This is no laughing matter.
Why are you laughing?
But that night at the boiler room, the camera hovers over the crowded dance floor, lights flashing, and Material Issues' What Girls Want blaring over the speakers. JP cuts through the crowd, past CD the DJ, and at the other end of the club, he spots Sandy, a blonde woman in a shimmering blouse played by Amy Lee, sat at a table with an uncredited man who looks a lot like 1992 Trent Reznor. I don't think it's him. But JP makes eye contact with Rick the barman, pointing over in Sandy's direction, and when Rick steals a glance of her, he returns his eyes back over to JP, offering him a smirk and a nod. As JP busts an awkward move through the dance floor on his way over, Rick snags a single red rose from the cold shelf at the bar, the camera following it as he places it in front of Sandy.
What is he, the fucking Bachelor?
Yeah.
I guess
What is this?
She appears pleasantly surprised to receive it, and JP slinks up to the stool next to her, offering her a whispered, "Welcome." Sandy recognizes him as JP Monroe, the owner. She gushes about the club and thanks him for the rose, and JP explains that it's her prize. She won it, and he only awards a rose to a woman of exceptional beauty. Sandy modestly remarks that there are a lot of girls prettier than her here, but JP disagrees, and his inner motivational speaker makes its presence known as he tells her that she shouldn't put herself down, and if she has a quality, she should be proud of it, and she should let it define her, whatever it is. We then cut to JP's apartment, a faint rumble of nearby music vibrating through the walls. We pan across furniture and lowly lit lamps to find the doorframe of JP's bedroom. On his bed, next to scattered rose petals, JP and Sandy are making it quite sweet. Sandy's legs are wrapped around him, and JP smokes a cigarette, grabbing sweaty handfuls of her breasts as he really goes after it.
He's full hedonism butt right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say that this is the Tom Atkins moment that I was speaking of, because apparently whenever the actress who played Sandy got the script, I don't think that it was as explicitly told that it would be a nude scene like this.
Oh.
And so she was fine with the sex scene, but she didn't want to show her breasts. And the way that they got around that was having JP hold them the entire scene.
Having who? I'm just
But, and they had said on commentary, they said it actually feels more intimate that way.
Right.
And so
Well, I mean, more like I don't know if I'd say intimate. I'd say more like hedonistic,
more
like,
carnal.
Yeah.
But the couple moans together, and the camera focuses on the pillar, which for some reason is parked in prime position to watch a few feet from the foot of the bed.
I was like, oh no, this is just the kind of thing that gets Pinhead going.
Yeah.
A low growl emanates from it, and when JP dramatically reaches the old crescendo, He spreads his arms like wings, seemingly kind of maybe feeling things more because of a nearby statue, perhaps? I don't know. It feels like it's giving him more power.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of like a Patrick Bateman moment.
Maybe, yes. But a roar escapes from the statue as the bald figure carved out of stone opens his eyes to the accompaniment of the score.
He said, what's going on this side? The fact that that's the moment that the eyes opened really was very funny.
Is she tied to an anchor, dude?
It's like, what is happening?
But in Joey's apartment, the camera combs over a photograph of none other than Kirsty Cotton, played by Ashley Lawrence, as well as a picture of a mattress covered in blood and rough sketches of the lament configuration. I am very happy about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I love, and we get to it even more, but I love that we're starting to bring in other portions of the franchise.
Yeah.
Important people and things that connect to kind of create some continuity.
Right.
Plus all the research scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You added an extra point, didn't you?
Absolutely.
But we hear Joey frustrated on the telephone, telling the person on the other end that for the last half hour, they've been dicking her around about this tape. She acknowledges the late hour, but says that she doesn't want to have to get her station manager involved. As she pleads for the last time to be put into contact with whoever's in charge of the Chennard video archives, the camera finds the well-worn photograph that Joey is holding in her hands. It's a picture of Captain Elliot Spencer, played by Doug Bradley, offering a stoic stare under his military cap. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something else I found out on commentary, I don't know if it was mentioned on Hellbound, the episode that we did, but the name Elliot Spencer comes from two poets, T.S. Eliot and Edmund Spencer, with both names spelled differently.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of interesting, especially for the fact of how poetic Pinhead is.
Yeah.
But Joey is put on hold before finally being connected with a Dr. Fallon. And instead of laughing every 5 seconds and ruining the phone call, Fallon is very...
That's good.
Thank you. He's very receptive to Joey's requests. But before Joey can begin her line of inquiry, she notices Terry snagging her belongings and heading for the door, so she asks the doctor to hang on for just a second. She calls out to Terry, asking her to wait for just a moment before returning to the call. She asks Dr. Fallon, before amending that to a very familiar Michael, and telling him that she needs the Kirsty Cotton tape, adding that his assistant has all the details. Fallon seems to agree immediately to give her the tape, which was very surprising to me.
Yeah.
But Joey just thanks him before hanging up and celebrating. I understand like this is the Chennard Video Archives. I guess the Institute doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But still, you would think that there'd be some kind of patient confidentiality regarding these.
Yeah.
Nah.
Even if you're a journalist, but nah.
Not at all.
Oh, you need them? Yeah.
Yeah, come on down.
But considering that Joey got everything that she needed, Terry supposes that they're done then, and with resignation, offers an understanding, so long, before turning to head for the door again. Joey, who is sat in front of a frame holding her father's military medals, asks Terry where she'll go. When Terry doesn't respond, Joey reminds her that there's a spare room here and tells Terry that she's more than welcome to stay if she wants. Terry responds in pleasant disbelief, remarking that that's great, and even offering to do breakfast in the morning, which inspires a chuckle from Joey.
I was like, please don't.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah. But I was like, I'm rooting for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, moments like this, you're like, we're leading.
Yes.
But we return to JP's place, where he sits at the edge of his bed, reaching for his garish boots to shine the metal toe with a warm breath. Sandy roams around his apartment, half dressed in her underwear and JP's shirt, remarking how radical it is, and complimenting JP on his great taste. She observes a painting on the wall, cold colors capturing the screaming face of a man who appears to be crucified. Interesting.
Yeah.
But Sandy comments that the painting is really dark. And JP agrees, more focused on his boots than on Sandy, who asks if he minds her talking about his stuff. JP doesn't mind, and Sandy asks if it bothers him for him to just say so. JP repeats that he isn't bothered, but he says that he isn't interested. Wounded, Sandy asks if he means that she isn't an interesting person, and confused, she reminds him that he gave her a rose.
Gave her more than a rose.
Yeah.
Gave her a row. But JP just smokes his cigarette, prognosticating that tomorrow he'll give a rose to someone else. Sandy seethes that he's a shit and asks who he thinks he is. JP just spreads his arms, leaning forward cockily and reminding her that he's JP Monroe.
All I'm thinking at this point is I can't wait for this guy to get what's coming to him.
Yeah.
What a fucking piece of shit. I mean, we all knew,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that he's like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, he takes it a step further.
Yeah.
He calls her a stupid B word and tells her to give him back his shirt and get the fuck out of his life.
We were just
Yeah.
5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you were being an eagle or whatever. And now you're going to talk to me like this?
And it's just wild that she's like, great place you have here. And he's like, oh my God.
I'm not interested.
Then why'd you put all this cool stuff up?
I'm not interested in talking about my stuff.
Yeah. But Sandy stands between the pillar and a vase filled to the brim with roses, cursing JP as a bastard, saying that she can't fucking believe this. He gets her in here and... But JP sarcastically responds that it wasn't like she was at fucking gunpoint. He starts to insult her even more, but devolves into a chuckle. But Sandy isn't finished, shouting that JP thinks he's some goddamn prince or something. But as she backs away, closer and closer to the statue, JP just hums and flexes as he smokes. So what the fuck is this? Dude,
He's so checked out.
If I'm arguing with you and you start flexing, I'm gonna have to start fighting you. Like that's it. That's
It's like, what are you doing?
like, dude,
Yeah, what is
come
this?
on.
He just sucks so bad. But that's more like you were saying, Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
It's like, are you emoting during this argument?
Is that a Fortnite dance?
What the hell is this? But Sandy continues screaming, admonishing his shitty little kingdom filled with all his ugly shit. But suddenly, long chains spring from the statue, sinking into Sandy's flesh with sharp hooks. She gasps as JP looks on in terror, the hooks lifting Sandy off her feet and turning her around to face the man carved into its side. His eyes open, and Sandy lets out a shriek. The man roars, a hook jutting from his opened mouth, sinking into Sandy's forehead, peeling at her flesh until it's torn from her completely, and she just hangs there on the hooks, a frame of slick muscle and bone. So again, a little callback here.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
It does.
Yeah. I did hear and read in that book that the skinning of Sandy was CG.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I want to go back and watch it for a third time because I did not clock that at all.
No.
And they actually said in that book that this is the first horror film to use CG like this, period.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But Sandy screams as she's flipped horizontal, and more hooks sink into her, pulling her into the statue as the marbled man screams, and Sandy is absorbed completely, her blood-covered body transformed into just another section of the sculpture, seemingly carved out of stone. Something very strange that I saw on Wikipedia, and it's the only place that I saw it, but credited as skinless Sandy is Paula Marshall.
What?
Huh.
Yeah, so I don't know if the actress who played Sandy played the skinned version of herself at all.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I was just like, she didn't deserve that.
No.
And honestly, that's another thing that kind of changes from what I'm used to with Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Is it seemed like Pinhead, it's fuck around, find out.
Right.
Sandy didn't fuck around.
No.
And so it feels like we're kind of shifting the ideology of these Cenobites.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did wonder, I was like, did you just get too close, or did you, like, your elbow hit the thing or something, or...
Like, you didn't solve any puzzles?
No.
She didn't even put her hand in that hole.
No.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wrong place, wrong time, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't like that. But JP sits frozen in horror on his bed as the camera arcs around the statue, and we find the face of the bald man again. Only now, long metal nails line the grid carved into his face. Whispers pervading the area, his eyes staring stoically at JP, we once again meet Pinhead, the lead Cenobite, the Hell Priest, played by Doug Bradley.
And played to perfection.
Yes.
Yeah.
To piggyback on what we were saying about it kind of being different, rules, I guess.
Yeah.
Doug Bradley, because he kept a journal for Fangoria, and in it he talked about Anthony Hickox being his third director in 3 films.
Yeah.
And since he felt like he had a handle on the character of Pinhead, he told Hickox, please don't think because I've played this character 3 times that I'm not open to anything. He talked about the fact that this is kind of new rules and that is a new situation for Pinhead and the Cenobites. So he was completely open to any direction that Hickox had because this is a whole new situation.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the diary was really interesting. He taught, and in conjunction with that book, it kind of provided a lot more context and insight to the journal because he talked about how different the makeup process was with this. His whole head was just 2 pieces of latex. So the process of applying it was a lot faster this time. And the pins were plastic, not metal this time. So they were more comfortable and lighter, but they did have a tendency to bunch up. And Doug Bradley did say that this is his least favorite Pinhead makeup of the Pinhead makeups.
Huh.
He told a story about having to act within the pillar because he's standing in the pillar holding handles on the inside and just his head. So he was like, I felt like I had to make every expression and every word count because I only have my face and my voice. But he said that when he first put his head through, 2 pins came off.
Oh, great.
But when they went to put them back in, there was only spot for 1 to be put back.
How the hell?
Yeah. So in his journal, he called it the fantasy bleeding into reality.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But in addition to the different makeup process, he said that he is incredibly nearsighted. And the contacts that he had to wear for the first 2, first of all, they were so painful he could only wear them for 20 minutes at a time. And he couldn't see shit. He couldn't see who he was acting with. He couldn't see anything. They had an ophthalmologist come and make him prescription lenses.
Oh, perfect.
So this is the first film where he's actually able to clearly see who he is acting with and what is going on and who he's interacting with.
That's really cool. I'm glad that they did that for him.
Yes.
It's his least favorite makeup, but he can see.
Yeah.
That's a fair trade-off, I think.
Fair.
It was interesting to me as well because in that diary, he really expressed being so nervous to step back into this role and kind of worrying about his performance and how he would be received.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But he said that after, which is funny because he didn't really care for the makeup all that much, but he said after seeing the process of him transforming into Pinhead again, he kind of felt like he could embody it. It felt more at home. And he said that that first time they applied the makeup, people were going out of their way to walk past him to be able to see him as Pinhead to the point where I can't remember if it was the AD or who he had asked, but he was like, can you tell people to stop coming over here? Because he said he felt like he was in a freak show. He was like, I'm supposed to feel like the Pope of hell, but I feel like people are just gawking at me.
Well, they're probably looking because how cool you look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he said his confidence was restored.
Yeah.
But it just shocked me that he was feeling very nervous and self-conscious going into it.
Another thing you have to consider as well, and Anthony Hickox talked about it, of just being a huge fan of these films, the first 2. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that are working with Hickox have not worked on any Hellraiser films.
Yeah.
So getting to see Pinhead up close for the
It's
first
huge.
time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a zoo, I guess.
Yeah.
But witnessing Pinhead's rebirth, JP can only mutter, Jesus Christ. But Pinhead corrects him. Not quite.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Finger snapping. Yeah.
He asks what JP saw, Was it the same as him? Appetite sated, desire indulged, a miniature of the world and how it will succumb to them? He asks JP if he enjoyed the girl, and when JP trembles a yes, Pinhead, still shrouded in stone, answers, "Good. So did I, and that's all." JP stutters that it isn't the same, screaming that what Pinhead did was fucking evil.
Let's calm down.
I think what JP did was fucking evil.
Yeah, you're not great.
We're
No.
both monsters, right?
Yes.
But Pinhead just laughs, remarking how uncomfortable that word must feel on JP's lips, and continues, "Evil, good. There is no good. There is no evil. There is only flesh and the patterns to which we submit it." He tells JP that he will help him. But JP refuses, arming himself with a pistol and rushing towards the statue, aiming it directly at Pinhead. But Pinhead savagely offers, "Oh, how touching. That's the gun you used to kill your parents?" I was like, whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa.
God damn, dude.
You're throwing a lot at me right now.
I missed a few chapters here. JP slowly lowers the gun as Pinhead shares his understanding that the Monroes' fortune was so tempting and their affection was so conditional. What else could JP do? But tears filling his eyes, JP seethes, "Fuck you," before firing 3 shots into the statue. Unharmed, Pinhead simply spits out the 3 bullets before asking, "Now, can we talk sensibly?"
And I love that for him.
Yeah.
On what planet, after what you just saw happen, did you think that gun was going to end this?
Yeah.
I don't know. And honestly, what happens next? You kill Pinhead and it's just his corpse just slumped in the stone. Now
Then
what?
Yeah.
Selling a stone. Best offer. But JP whimpers and begins to sob, crumpling to the floor and cradling his own head in his hands. But Pinhead offers some very familiar wise words, telling JP not to flee from himself. If he has a quality, be proud of it and let it define him, whatever it is. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
As the main theme sings on strings in the score, Pinhead says that by helping him, JP will help himself. He says that JP wants to. He always has, with his paintings, his sculptures. He instructs JP to look at these tawdry representations and then imagine the world of the body as canvas, as clay. JP looks up at Pinhead, the words clearly resonating with him. But there's suddenly a pounding on the door, a voice checking in on JP, considering he did just shoot his gun 3 times.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah.
As JP slowly creeps towards the door to answer it, Pinhead declares that there is a place for JP at his right hand, for a man of his tastes. Tastes that Pinhead can help him indulge. Flesh, power, dominion. JP slinks over to the door, opening up a peephole to find Douglas the bouncer, played by Ron Norris, standing there. Douglas asks if he's okay, and JP replies simply that everything's fine before closing the hatch. He returns to Pinhead, asking, "How do we start?" And Pinhead replies, "It has already begun."
It did occur to me that they all watched Sandy
Yeah.
go to his apartment, heard gunshots, and then Sandy is never seen again.
Yeah.
So
everything's fine.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if that was going to come into play more, but it does not.
And I'm sorry. He's very convincing, Pinhead.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, man, okay.
He's a poet.
Yeah.
Later, they say they're like, he's really good. Like, he knows how to negotiate. But the next morning, outside of the TV station, Doc catches up with Joey. He waves at her with a package in his hand, and after exchanging a few pleasantries, Doc hands it over to her, telling her that it came for her today and asking if it's something for her story. Very quickly, there's an overhead shot that is very reminiscent of a shot in Suspiria in this scene, and on commentary, Hickox said it was an homage.
Oh,
Hey.
cool.
Love to see it. But Joey hopes that it is for her story, and Doc sincerely offers his help if she needs it, and reminds her that she has his number. Joey thanks him for the offer and heads alone to the editing bay.
He is so kind
Yeah.
and so like looking out for her that I'm just worried for him.
Yeah.
It reminded me, you remember on Breaking Bad when that custodian was being so sweet to Walter and at the end they arrested him and you're like, oh, I knew
Yeah.
nothing good can happen.
We can't have shit ever.
But once in the editing bay, with the lights low and the monitors flickering static, Joey pops the tape into the player and clicks a few keys on the keyboard. 4 of the monitors spring to life, and in very low quality video, we see Kirsty standing at the far end of a room in front of a window, being recorded from behind a long wooden table. I did learn on commentary that this was the first thing shot before production even truly began. Hickox was doing dubbing on Waxwork 2, and he had a dubbing stage that was free and available for him to use, and so that's where this was filmed.
Perfect.
Okay.
It works.
Yeah.
But Kirsty explains that she doesn't know what the box is, but she says that she knows what it does. Annoyed, she remarks that she said all of this before. She saw the box open, she opened it, and she saw what came out. She says that she doesn't know what else to call them before settling on demons. She says demons live in the box and that it's a gateway to hell. She tells whoever is interviewing her that she knows they don't believe her and knows how it sounds. She pleads, "What else?" before repeating her inquiry in a shout, angrily batting the contents from the tabletop. Then, upon making eye contact with the camera, she begs for them to turn that fucking thing off, and the video gives way to static. Joey smokes a cigarette, and we see that she's watching another section of the video, this time with Kirsty a bit calmer, seated closer and right in front of the camera. Joey was supposed to be quitting smoking, if you recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's been emboldened to continue.
Yeah.
Fair.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
One.
Yeah.
But through the 4 television screens, Kirsty admits that she doesn't know what the puzzle box is for, who made it, or why. She only knows what it does. It hurts. Joey absorbs this information as Kirsty continues that the box opens itself. She says that your fingers move, and you learn, and we see her hands cradle the memory of the box. Joey's fingers fidget nervously as Kirsty states that it wants to open. That's the thing, and it helps, and then they come. But the image of Kirsty is occluded by static until another image overtakes hers. The man from the photograph that Joey discovered earlier, Captain Elliot Spencer. He stares down Lynn's, the footage imbued with a blue hue, as he says with certainty, "She's telling the truth, Joey," which is great.
How am I supposed to feel right now? Yeah. What? Did you just talk to me?
was like, oh.
And I feel like the reaction, there really is not an
But static crackles over the image until it once again returns to Kirsty seated at the table. Joey attempts to rewind the footage, pressing play just as Kirsty shares that this is when they come, the demons. But not being able to find the footage of Captain Spencer, the shot distorts once again, buzzing loudly as Kirsty is lost in the static. So that's a very cool little cameo.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I appreciated it very much. Again, this tie-in and this continuity.
Mm-hmm.
But back at Joey's apartment, the camera finds Terry, who sits very casually in a chair reading a book called Battles of the 20th Century, with her bare foot resting on a desk in front of a couple of beer bottles. So this is the war theme that keeps coming up.
Yeah.
But it's not really explored thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thunder rumbles outside as we rise to discover the lament configuration resting atop the VCR above the television in the living room. Terry can't help but look at it as its golden accents shimmer in the light of surrounding lamps. After a moment of contemplation, Terry makes her way over to it, taking a lollipop from her mouth and retrieving the ominous object, supposing out loud that Joey must have polished it up or something, commenting that Joey must be even weirder than she is.
I feel like she should know better.
Yeah.
I know that she hasn't seen completely what Joey has seen, but she's seen enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's shaking loose those stones, and it does look shiny as hell.
Yeah.
Like, she's right about that.
When did Joey have time to polish this thing?
Well, Terry slept. I don't know. She didn't dream. I just want to make that clear.
Very clear.
But she takes a seat on the couch, absolutely captivated as her fingers trace the intricate designs of the puzzle box. They dance around a golden circle at the center on one of its sides, and the music grows tense as the box seems to click. But in a jolt, Terry is startled out of her trance when the telephone rings on the side table. Carrying the box with her, Terry answers the phone, asking if it's Joey. But we cut to JP's apartment, the camera panning to find him as he reclines in a chair, repeating Pinhead's words. Not quite. Terry recognizes his voice, even though it's nothing more than a raspy whisper, as he shares that he's alive and in the flesh. He claims that he's just checking in, and Terry asks how he even got this number. JP suggests that she relax, reminding her that her girlfriend left cards all over the club.
That's true. I'm not wondering how he got the number. I'm wondering how the hell he knows she's over there.
Yeah. I know Pinhead is like really knowledgeable. Was he like, and you know your girlfriend's over there?
Because the box is over there.
Yeah, maybe he feels it.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Yeah.
But Terry remembers, and after a bit of stammering, answers that she's just fine, and says that Joey's planning to actually get her a job at the TV station, and that she's meeting a lot of new people. None of this is true.
Maybe these were off-screen chats.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like with JP's parents or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we're missing a lot of reels, I think.
We just have to trust what we're being told.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now how like that felt like a poorly written soap opera with Pinhead. Where it's like, and on the night of your parents' murder or whatever, it's like, what the fuck?
Like, oh shit.
Oh, wow, that was 2 seasons ago. But JP smirks, intimating that he knows that she's been thinking of him. Terry admits this, but laments that he was really horrible to her. JP acknowledges that he's a bad guy, but he tries not to be, and he says that he really misses her. A tear slipping from her eye, Terry mutters that she misses him too. JP then invites her over, just for a little drink maybe, to see how they both feel. Terry sobs that she can't before hanging up the telephone. She cradles her head in her hands as the phone rings again. She curses over and over, but when the answering machine picks it up, she hears a man's voice, only it isn't JP. The message is for Joey, and the uncredited stranger, or possibly Brad, shares the news that he assumes that Joey probably hasn't heard yet. She got the job in Monterey. Terry looks on somberly as the man jokes that Joey will definitely have to give him her condo now.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't see her apply for anything.
And they won't even give her the time of day at this station, but they're...
Yeah.
I just don't... I'm really confused by this. And by the reaction that follows.
Yeah.
I think my theory is something that we see later where it is shown that there are certain powers of, I guess, hallucinatory situations that Pinhead can inspire.
Okay.
Because I don't think that we even see Joey hear this message later or anything.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like how can I get her over here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he does that later.
Yeah.
Well, she was saying all that to JP, and maybe she was just telling him that to like, no, dude, I'm not going over there. Things are better now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was like, fuck, that didn't work.
Yeah.
He's like, Pinhead. He's like, I'm on it.
Yeah. I was like, just hold the phone to my ear. Hold it to my ear.
It was him. He's like, hey, congratulations on the job or whatever. But later that night, Joey returns home. As she creeps into the darkness of the living room, she calls out for Terry, and upon getting no response, she steps over to her telephone where she finds a handwritten note on her answering machine. Enjoy Monterey, you liar. That's a lot.
What did she lie
Yeah.
about?
I will never go to Monterey.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
And if this is something that happened off screen,
Uh-huh.
she doesn't know. I mean, you guys never talked about it.
No. And again, whatever is developing here, whether it was intentionally romantic, I definitely took it as romantic.
Yeah.
We just met each other.
Yeah.
So if I had feelers out for a job or I applied for a job before, we've known each other for like 4 days.
Yeah.
How are you going to get mad at me for that?
And maybe I won't take it.
There's just the reaction is so bizarre and so over the top for even if this is true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird.
But we then find Terry being welcomed into JP's apartment.
Terry, no, I'm a bad guy. Yeah, don't do it.
He shuts the door behind her, locking it immediately. And with a smile, he tells her that it's not a good neighborhood. People disappear.
Aren't we in the club?
Yeah. But he asks her if it feels like home to return here, remarking that it's just like she left it. Terry answers, not quite, gesturing over to the large looming pillar at the center of the room, adding that wasn't here before. Too scary, Carl. JP just says that he's having some work done on it, and he comments that Terry found him a real treasure here, and he hopes that he can show her his gratitude. Terry notices that the pillar looks a little different, and JP shares that a girl he knows smartened it up, claiming that she put her heart and soul into it.
You cheeky bastard.
Yeah.
Is like giggling when she's not looking. Or no, he's just straight up giggling. He laughs wryly.
Yeah.
Right now. As the camera dips down and we see Sandy's face frozen forever in the stone. Terry responds with jealousy, but JP assures her that now that she's back, it's like that girl doesn't even exist.
All right. Do we get
Yeah.
I had her killed. Terry.
So you keep bringing that up.
It's enough already.
You could almost say we ate Sandy and she's in our stomach
Yeah.
right now. JP asks if she knows what he means.
No.
She seems to, though. But when she tries to tell him something, JP interrupts her, standing beneath a petrified pinhead. He remarks that she knows it's got to be ticking away in both of their minds. Is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? He beckons her closer, and as she takes a few steps towards him, he says that she knows they have to get this out of the way. Then they can relax and talk. She almost joins him in front of the pillar, but thinks better of it, making a beeline for his bed, the sound of a foul wind blowing as he reaches for her with no purchase. He huffs for a moment as Terry takes a seat on the foot of the bed, remarking that she just isn't ready yet. JP says that he understands, acknowledging that they have all night. The camera then presses in tightly on Pinhead's face before a quick flash of white transports us back to the jungles of Vietnam. Which is honestly kind of hilarious that Joey got that note on the answering machine and she's like, I'm going to bed. Fuck it.
It's been a long week, dude.
Soldiers return fire into the trees as Joey's father writhes wounded on the ground. Joey watches from the field once again, the wind blowing around her, before she suddenly finds herself in the trenches, more befitting of World War I than Vietnam, surrounded by soldiers. And they did dig real trenches in North Carolina for this sequence.
Oh,
Damn.
wow.
The soldiers return fire and catch bullets, collapsing into the dirt, but an officer presides over all, gazing over the men and looking directly at Joey. It's Captain Spencer, and he welcomes her by name, but she covers her ears as the sounds of war become unbearable. The glow of the orange sun beams as explosions burst all around the trenches, clouds of dirt born from the blasts, which catapult screaming men into the air. Bodies begin to pile up, and Joey finally reaches her limit, a scream escaping her as the camera pulls back, revealing her sitting up in her bed. A television casts its light across the room as a haze of static fills the screen, which Joey notices, but suddenly, the face of Captain Spencer appears within it. He pleads for her help, but is promptly buried in the static snow. But we return to JP's apartment, where he sits with a distraught Terry on his bed. He curses Joey, remarking that she was obviously using Terry, ready to dump her the second that she had the chance. Terry cries that Joey wouldn't do that, assuming that she must have freaked her out, lamenting that she just fucked up something good again. JP rises from his seat, pacing around the room, reminding Terry that she didn't fuck things up with him, and she knows it, and he then reminds her how sorry he is. He says that he hates to see her upset like this, and in a quick cut and abrupt edit, the camera drifts from Pinhead's stoic face to JP, who repeats that he hates to see Terry in pain like this. It's like, what the hell was that?
Happened.
Terry is surprised to hear this, and JP adds that he wants to hug her and hold her and tell her that it's all right. Terry reaches her arms out to JP, but JP, who stands in front of the statue, says that she has to come to him, remarking that it's not fair that he go over there because she's on the bed.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I'm on this side. So
Yeah.
it's like that. There's no logic.
No.
Talking about.
Right? Why do you want me to go?
Yes.
But JP slinks behind the statue, urging her to join him, his eyes clearly evil as all hell as he whispers, "Come to daddy."
Yeah, I was like, that's not nefarious at all.
No.
That's completely normal behavior.
And there's your Frank.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Terry takes the bait, leaving the sanctuary of the sheets to step slowly over to JP, his arms open for her. But once she reaches him, Terry once again says that she can't. But JP isn't so magnanimous this time, and he seizes her shimmering top in his fist, Pinhead roaring to life as Terry tries to break away from him. They fall onto his bed, the tussle continuing as Pinhead shouts, "Bring her to me, boy!"
You can't get out of there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pretty stuck here.
Well,
They're going to have to do most of the work
You have one
on
job.
this one. And honestly, you think about it, you talk about these parallels with the previous films, he is Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that till just now.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
JP clutches Terry's belt and the waist of her pants, dragging her from the bed to the floor, telling her that she's making it harder on herself. And as he pulls her down a set of sunken-in stairs, he suggests that she watch her head on the steps.
He's having too much fun.
Yeah.
yeah.
Pinhead roars, ready to feast upon Terry's flesh, but Terry has other ideas, snagging a pair of brass knuckles that I didn't know she had.
It looks like she pulls him out of her bra. I was like,
Yeah.
God
Oh,
damn.
shit. Well, she treats JP to the power of the punch,
Well, good.
Yeah.
socking him across the face. She makes a break for the locked door, pounding on it, but Pinhead shouts for her to wait. Terry stops dead in her tracks as he asks her, "Why run?" He asks if she knows where she is before answering that she's at the door to dreams. The main theme plays lowly in the background as Pinhead explains that there are 2 keys in this room. The first is in the pocket of JP, or as Pinhead calls him, this fool.
Well,
He has switched sides like it's unbelievable.
You gotta adapt.
yeah.
But he says Terry could take that without him reaching her. Probably. And let herself back into the world that she's always known. Banal, hopeless, dreamless. Terry sobs as she asks for the other key. Pinhead proudly paints this second option as the key to dreams, to black miracles and dark wonders, another life of unknown pleasures. He says that it's all Terry's, and she inches her way over to him. He tells her to complete the pattern and solve the puzzle, to turn the key. She asks where it is, and Pinhead motions to the floor, answering that it's lying bleeding at her feet. The camera dips down to find JP's unconscious body, as Pinhead adds that hell has no furies for a woman scorned. On commentary, they talked about that line, and they were so proud for having came up with it, but I'm like, that line is
That's not.
Yeah.
it's just a reversal of the...
Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't invent it.
They're like, and we were like, and they're like fucking high five. Like, come on, man. But Terry sniffs and sobs as she bends down to roll JP's body over. After several attempts, she grunts as she kicks him over to the foot of the statue. Just as he reaches the cool stone of the pillar, JP wakes up, pleading with Terry. But as he reaches out to her, Hooks spring from the statue on chains, sinking into JP's skin. As JP gazes up at the Hell Priest, a piston branches out from the stone, stabbing through his temples and into his skull as he screams. He collapses to the floor as Pinhead yells powerfully, and the statue begins to transform, shifting from a pale blue to a muted red, the figures trapped within it moving with renewed life. The music dramatically rises as the statue begins to break apart, tortured faces groaning as a hole appears at its center, beaming a light and squirting a translucent goo. Pinhead really enjoyed this part. Decorum. But Terry whimpers as the statue bursts open, blasting light in all directions as the shattered pieces collect on the floor, crashing into a sludge of organic matter. The camera arcs around Terry, revealing now a triumphant Pinhead where the statue once stood. The score reaches its crescendo as Pinhead, clad in his signature leather, holds his hand out to Terry.
I don't blame her. I'd have pushed me over to him too.
Like I earned it.
Yeah.
Pinhead steams a good hand.
He does.
Yeah.
He's good at telling you what he has to tell you.
Yeah.
So, and this is all because Joey may take a job in Monterey, I guess.
That was the catalyst.
That's unbelievable. But even seeing this, I was still so surprised at what we see later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this slipped from my mind.
Yeah.
What exactly the proposition and the offer was.
Yeah.
But it's still just heartbreaking.
I know.
Yeah.
But back at Joey's apartment, Joey is awakened in bed by the sound of a big band playing on a distant radio. She climbs out to the floor as a voice on the radio shares the name of the song that just reached its end, but comments that now, with swinging London ready for their warm beds, as Big Ben strikes midnight, they'd like to send this final tune out to all their lovely boys in the trenches, offering, "Sleep well, chaps." But Joey peers over a balcony at the edge of her bedroom that I didn't know existed before.
No, I wasn't sure that this was still her place.
Yeah.
I thought this was the start of a dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember the spiral staircase that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
But the way that she's looking out, it looks like this is like a manor from like the era that the radio's on.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, I guess this is just her awesome condo as it's always been.
Yeah, I don't know if this whole Monterey thing is true, but why the fuck would you ever move out of this place?
Yeah.
But Joey notices a pulsing light behind a closet door on the first floor, accompanied by a low hum and the sound of an upbeat song from a big band emanating from behind the closed door. She heads downstairs, opening the door to find a large vintage radio on the shelf, befitting of the age of the song that it's broadcasting. She picks the radio up, placing it onto her coffee table and kneeling in front of it. Is this just her radio because she doesn't react?
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, if it's a dream, then I get it. If this is not a dream, where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah.
But she turns the knob on the front of the radio, cycling through frequencies and observing the different names of cities listed on the dial, temporarily tuning into a station out of Paris and another big band number before a voice breaks through the broadcast, telling her, "Go to the window, Joey. Go to the window." She rises to her feet as the camera arcs around her, and she steps slowly in her long white gown over to the hanging curtain at the window. After a moment, she forces it open, and through the glass, she finds Spencer sitting cross-legged on the floor of a large room, light pouring through the windows lining the wall on the left side. Joey tries to reach for the man, but her hand seemingly disappears into the glass, and she reacts with amazement as she retrieves her hand from the void. But without a second thought, she closes her eyes and steps through the portal of the glass in front of her. Thunder rumbles as Joey enters the room through the portal, her exit back to her apartment nowhere in sight, as Captain Spencer holds the lament configuration in his hands, studying it. So if you recall, this is something that we have seen.
Yeah.
The scene from Hellbound.
Mm-hmm.
They recreated that room in North Carolina on this set.
Wow.
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it does.
But Joey asks him, "Now what?" remarking that she just walked into madness for him and urges him to talk. When he sits there silently, Joey steps toward him, repeating her request. But suddenly, a door slides open in the wall, a bright light beaming from its newfound exit, and Joey makes her way toward it. As she steps through, she finds herself back in the trenches, bodies piled up around the edges of it, under the blue dusk of night. Spencer stands in his uniform at the top of the heap, welcoming Joey and commenting that it was good of her to come. He walks away, but Joey calls out to him, creeping her way past devastation and mutilated corpses before climbing out and over to Spencer, who stands by a small, crackling fire. Joey asks for his help, wondering if she's dreaming this, as she doesn't understand. Spencer says that she'll have to help him, and she will understand, adding that no, she isn't dreaming. Spencer, introducing himself, kindly asks her to forgive him, as he states that his name was Captain Elliot Spencer. Joey introduces herself and he offers her a polite handshake. He remarks that she's a brave girl and supposes that she's never shaken hands with a ghost before. Joey asks him what the hell is going on, and Spencer replies that hell is exactly what's going on, and they have to stop it. I loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for staying and getting back on topic, because it's easy to be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And just kind of like shell shocked at what you're seeing now.
Yeah.
Or interacting with this dude. But it's like, no. What's going on?
Please explain to me what's happening.
As they walk together, Spencer explains that a dream of one war is a dream of all wars. And her dream of finding her father let him find her to bring her here, which is a limbo between heaven and hell. He states that he can't act in her world, but she can. Joey asks what he wants her to do, and Spencer reveals that there's a monster out there. And it's him. We find Spencer on the floor of the long corridor that Joey found him in before, the camera pressing in closer as Spencer explains that the war destroyed his generation. He shares that those who didn't die drank themselves to death, but he went further. As Spencer fiddles with the puzzle box in his hand, his voice continues that he was an explorer of forbidden pleasures. The box sizzles an electric blue light in his hands, and he drops it in shock as his voiceover describes opening the box as his final act of exploration, of discovery. The side of the box opens, and a mess of hooked chains rise from it, sinking into his flesh through his uniform as he screams. The camera travels into Spencer's open mouth, through blue clouds and through the stone-arched halls of the labyrinth. Thunder rumbles as in quick cuts, Spencer's flesh turns pale, and he screams as his skin is torn, his teeth turn rotten, and a grid is carved into his now bald head. Nails are driven into the symmetrical wounds as Spencer's voiceover explains that he found the monster within the box, and it found the monster within him. So this is all from Hellbound.
Yeah.
Which is incredible because it just fits in so seamlessly.
It really does.
And to hear it all explained is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And again, even from the first one, that's the same thing. Uncle Frank was sitting down playing with it. The chains came out.
Again with this continuity and references.
Yeah.
But Pinhead faces us through long hanging chains in a grim and grotesque room as Spencer continues that for decades, he served hell with no memories of his former life. Spencer marches through the chains, explaining that though he was a monster, he was bound by laws, adding that hell has its commandments too. He says the box had to be opened to let him out, and the true innocent were safe, until a friend released him. Joey knows the identity of this friend, Kirsty Cotton, and we see a blue light flashing over the face of Pinhead, bursting from the box in Kirsty's hands. His face transforms to that of Captain Spencer, still clad in Pinhead's leather. Joey doesn't understand if his soul was freed. But as we watch the pillar of souls rising from the floor of Dr. Chenard's room in Hellbound Hellraiser II, Pinhead's face flayed and attached to it in agony, Spencer explains that his evil was too strong and that it hid. It waited. Through nightmarish imagery, pools of blood, flickering candles and twisted bodies turning to stone carved into the pillar of souls, Spencer announces, "No longer, Joey." He says the shell of the beast has been fleshed, and whatever he was is out there in her world, unbound, unstoppable. On commentary, Doug Bradley said, and I have a bone to pick with you about this, and they played this part, and he literally does say, unbound, unstoppable. And he's like, how dare you? But he says that there's something they can do, though it will require great courage. When Joey expresses her doubts, Spencer stops her, reminding her that she just stepped through her window into another reality and that she's stronger than she thinks. Joey asks Spencer what needs to be done, and Spencer gives the details. There is a gateway to hell through which he can be taken back, a gateway that he wants to close forever. Joey asks where it is, and Spencer tells her plainly, her apartment. It's the box. Pinhead has to destroy it. Spencer tells her that she has to go back and bring Pinhead to her. She's found the window, and she must use the box to bring Pinhead through it, to bring him to Spencer's dominion, where he has power. Joey expresses fear that Pinhead might take the box from her before she can, but Spencer reveals that Pinhead can't take it and must be given to him, which is where Joey's courage will count, because Pinhead can be very persuasive.
And he can.
So then there's some good somewhere inside Pinhead, maybe.
Yeah.
That will defeat him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And maybe. And I love that because Kirsty helped him, he's able to help Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate getting to see Doug Bradley take on two roles like this.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting to watch because he is so kind as Captain Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hell Priest is just in another...
Not.
No. But back in the boiler room, Armored Saint performs another pounding and blistering metal track in front of a packed house, the camera gliding over dancing patrons under the bright flashing lights of the club. But through the patrons playing pool, drinking and conversing, the devilish decorations hanging overhead that we saw earlier begin to twist and contort. The baby doll surrounded by sharp objects turns its head slightly to the right with a creak. A leather-clad body wrapped in barbed wire cranes its neck over Rick the barman. A feminine mannequin partially trapped in a brick wall squeezes a heart in her hand until blood leaks down her pristine white wrist. That shot was just really awesome.
Yes.
I feel like there are a lot of really decent moments of cinematography in this film,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one sequence coming up that is just so cool that I had to watch it a few times, actually.
Yeah.
But suddenly, an explosion bursts from the upper level, vaulting a tuxedoed man over the railing and crashing into the bar on the first floor. A crowd of people on the second level turn to see Pinhead standing there, in a beam of light, accompanied by a musical flourish in the score as he surveys the masses. He asks them, "Shall we begin?"
He's so cool, man.
He is.
That was an excellent shot.
Yeah.
And you just know shit's about to pop off.
Mm-hmm. This is enough to make the crowd disperse, frantically running for the exits. Pinhead lets out a sinister laugh as hooked chains rain down from the ceilings, one severing the fingers of an uncredited man whose date screams as he clutches his wrist in horror. The camera pulls back, frenzied as a pull cue pins another patron to the brick wall through his stomach. This patron of the bar who was just murdered is played by Zach Galligan in a cameo role from Gremlins.
What?
Yes.
He was in Hickox's Waxwork.
Oh, shit.
So just the tiniest role.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But we then see the liquid inside of a glass rise in front of a woman in a black dress, and she watches as it transforms into Pinhead's villainous visage before freezing into a jagged icicle and lodging itself into the woman's mouth, who collapses very slowly, bloody and dead, onto the table. I don't know what to make of this.
No.
This might not surprise you, but this was also CG.
What?
But flesh is torn and bodies are impaled as exits are sealed and Pinhead laughs triumphantly. CD, the DJ, watches it all from his booth, seemingly unscathed. But suddenly, compact discs rise from the stacks in front of him, hovering over his head as he mouths, "What the fuck?" But before he can make heads or tails of it, the CDs slice through him, lodging into his skull as his eyes are wrapped in chains, and a final disc cuts right through his lips, cracking in his mouth as he falls over dead. A very red door slams shut and locks as Pinhead laughs maniacally, and chains cut through innumerable innocents. As a crowd rushes for an exit at the end of the long hall, those doors close cruelly as well, their handles suddenly wrapped in chains. And from the other side of this door, we watch as blood collects underneath, pooling through the crack at the bottom as the sounds of carnage continue to echo from the club.
I really enjoyed this whole little what's going on here.
Uh-huh.
Him coming out and like, what's up, bitches? And then just massacring everybody. Like, I mean, that's not cool, but you know what I mean?
Right.
The whole scene. We, like you said, it's just crazy shit going on. One right after the other, right after the other. And it did feel different than from what we get in a Halloween or a Chucky or a Texas Chainsaw Massacre or whatever. Like, this fits very on brand with Pinhead. And I feel like though it is a lot, this fits with what's going on.
Yeah.
For me, and they even mentioned it on commentary, they didn't mention the specific film, but this reminded me a lot of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, like the pool scene.
Okay.
Just having a fucking blast.
Yeah, and
he's-
kind of his maniacal laughter.
Yeah.
And just kind of letting shit go and happen.
Yeah. He's unleashed like Jet Li.
All right.
Yeah, but he wasn't just trying to scare people, though. He's
No.
like running
No.
around.
No, he was much more menacing.
Yeah.
Running around.
It's like, is Pinhead 5'3"? What the fuck?
Is he making hot dogs
I'm
now?
not scared at all. One thing I did want to add is that they had mentioned on commentary, and I read in that book, this sequence, 98% of it was done in reshoots.
Damn.
Whoa.
And there are differing reasons as to why.
Mm-hmm.
One story says that whenever this film was in post-production, a rough cut of it was shown to the Weinsteins.
Mm.
Gross.
Because they were branching off from Miramax to start Dimension Films.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually the first film distributed by Dimension Films,
Oh.
which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But after watching it, they said that it needed something. And so they talked to Hickox, and they said, if you had more money and another week to shoot, what would you do? And this is what was done.
Okay.
Second story is that after they saw the rough cut of the film, they went to Clive Barker, and Clive Barker suggested all of this.
Well, let's credit it to Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that story better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And through Clive Barker coming back to make those suggestions, it's also said that that's how he got the Clive Barker Presents.
Got it.
okay.
Because,
So there's even evidence.
Yeah.
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 because he had nothing to do with the film, really, after the falling out with the producers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he comes back, he gives these ideas, he gives these notes, and then he gets that credit at the top.
Yeah.
And it helped because he, with that credit, went on to promote the film. And he promoted it, get this, as 1992, the same exact time he promoted Candyman.
Oh,
wow.
shit. Okay.
But Joey wakes up on her couch in her apartment. Her television switched to the news, where an uncredited reporter, possibly that Martin from earlier, interrupts the regularly scheduled programming to report on what he calls some kind of catastrophe downtown at the Boiler Room. Reporting from outside, the reporter, surrounded by police and medical personnel, shares that a number of people have been seriously injured and perhaps killed. The cameraman captures a wounded woman being carried out on a stretcher, but Joey has already reached her feet and rushed for the telephone, where she calls Doc, waking him up at home in his bed. She urges him to switch on the television, asking for his help and for him to meet her at the Boiler Room. As Doc cycles through channels, Joey climbs the spiral staircase, frantically searching through her closet to get dressed, as she explains that there's no one else she can call, and reminding Doc of his offer, which he remembers, promising that he meant it. Something very funny is as Doc is cycling through channels, you see an interview with, and he's labeled by name, Anthony Hickox. But Joey gets dressed, watching the television as the reporter struggles to understand what's happening, and he signs off as Joey snags the puzzle box from a side table and exits her apartment. But as soon as she does, the camera dips down to the floor, where it's revealed that her television is unplugged.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I would say.
And when he was flipping through the channels, didn't he go by the channel she told him to and it was something different?
Yeah, it wasn't on. He kept cycling. He's like, it's not there.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think Waxwork too, there were clips from it that were on there too. But it's like, I'm not seeing this news broadcast. Only the greatest film I've ever seen. But Joey drives through the rain into the boiler room, parking in front of Doc's vehicle out front. And that's, again, another sweet aspect of Doc. He didn't see what she was talking about, but he believed her.
Yeah.
But she opens the driver's side door, but Doc is nowhere in sight. So she continues on, running to the back of the building and gazing upward at a long exterior staircase leading up to the 3rd floor of the building. The staircase is very red, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Color theory. And this shot from her looking up is so wonderful. The blue light, the red on the left, the way that the door is lit up top. I think that the way this sequence is shot is so remarkable, and I watched it a bunch of times.
Yeah? Is there enough color here to...
Hold on. Let's not.
I only didn't comment because it's not a light.
Okay.
I know the rules of Giallo.
I'm learning.
Do you?
Learning,
Yeah, give me a little credit here.
No.
I will not.
But at the top of the staircase, and from that very nice low-angle shot, we see a very red door creaking open for Joey.
Now, too many more red items, and we're going to have to make an exception. So you are right about that. I'm glad you are learning, and I'm glad that I can be the one to teach you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You both have received an F from my course.
Anyway, John,
You're like, I don't even need that credit.
I don't even know who this is.
A red door, like what? Didn't Nancy have a red door?
I think a lot of doors are red in horror movies. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But you can have that reference. And there is something later that we see when someone is running through the street, we'll say. There is an Elm Street cafe.
Yeah.
Hey.
So it has to be some kind of something.
Yeah.
But Joey ascends the steps as thunder crackles overhead. But behind her, unbeknownst to her, the tattered corpses of club patrons hang lifelessly on a nearby fence. But once inside, Joey creeps cautiously over a mass of bodies, whimpering, through blue lights and into red, sobbing and steeling herself as she navigates through the heaps of humanity, with hanging chains rattling all around her.
Damn, he fucking went nuts in here.
He did, and again, what to what end?
Yeah.
Why not?
But she shrieks when she finds a mass of mutilated patrons at the bar area that she recently frequented, the music reaching a crescendo as we get a shot of one of the patrons' ruined ribcage. But when Joey reaches the stage, the lights switch on, a spotlight briefly shining upon her, but suddenly a door opens to the left of her, and she finds a room filled with hundreds of flickering candles. I do want to say before we move on, you do see it, and they said on commentary, the way that these bodies are arranged of the clubgoers outside, inside, throughout these rooms, it's a reference to Gustave Doré's illustrations for Dante's Inferno.
Oh,
very nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But the orange light of the candles illuminates the area, dozens of dead clubgoers seated and surrounding Joey as she ventures forward, finding the dead body of a man wrapped in Christmas lights, his eyes replaced with rolling dice. So this room looks amazing.
Yeah.
All these candles lit the way that they are, the way that the corpses are arranged. Who the hell is that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought it was Doc.
So did
Yeah.
I, until you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's given such importance, and it seems very important.
Yeah.
I bet it is someone. We just didn't.
missed it.
Yeah.
But when she hears mechanical whirring behind her, she turns around, discovering Doc seated on a wooden bench, his head resting bloody and upside down in his lap, and his camera lodged into the open wound at his neck, tilting upward and adjusting focus.
He didn't deserve it.
No,
but that's a pretty cool visual.
it is.
It was.
Yeah.
It's so gruesome,
Yeah.
but it just looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
Joey sobs, clutching the lament configuration and mourning the loss of her friend. One thing I will say, and it does kind of make me laugh, just in a matter of just the way that it unfolds, the way that Joey says the names of these people when she realizes what's happened is said the exact same way every single time, no matter who she finds. And it is kind of funny to me, I will say. But Pinhead makes his presence known, announcing that it's unbearable, the suffering of strangers, the agony of friends. He shares that there's a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. Joey refuses to believe this, but Pinhead suggests that she can hear its faint echo even now, and he declares that he's here to turn up the volume, to press the stinking face of humanity into the dark blood of its own secret heart. It's like, who's writing for you, dude? Like, this is incredible.
It's so good.
Joey retorts that she's here to stop him and send him back to hell, but Pinhead only laughs, assuring her that she can't stop him, and he says that she doesn't have to hear the music. All she has to do is give him the box, and he'll free her from her future. But when Joey suggests that he instead free himself of the past, Pinhead snarls for her not to debate with him, ordering her to just come here and die while she still has the option of doing it quickly.
Damn.
Yeah.
But I was like, did he really think it'd be that easy? Because he's like, all you have to do is give me the box.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah. And that's not how you ask for that. Be nice.
No.
Yeah, come on.
You're being very rude. I don't want to do anything for you.
But Joey antagonizes that he'll have to come and get her, calling him an ugly fuck. This intrigues Pinhead, who calls her spirited and rejoices in it, getting closer to her, promising that he'll enjoy making her bleed, and he'll enjoy making her enjoy it.
Sounds kinky.
Sounds
A
terrible.
little bit.
Well, I mean,
Both.
Let her go. I'm here now.
All right. Joey glares at Pinhead, but when he reaches for the lament configuration, it zaps him with blue lightning, which shocks him and surprises Joey, who takes off running in the other direction. The score follows Joey dramatically as she runs out into the street. A taxi speeds down the street, swerving out of the way to not run her over.
He looked like he was smiling when he swerved.
Yeah.
He was thinking about something else. That's why he didn't see it. It's like, oh, shit! The ill-fated taxi driver, played by David Keane, crashes into a telephone pole, his engine catching fire as he crawls out of the driver's seat, covered in blood. Joey continues running, however, when the severed wires from the car crash rise up like sizzling snakes to face her. As she runs, a fire hydrant bursts nearby, the resulting waves flowing over the wires, creating a charged current that rushes for Joey, and she barely escapes it, hopping onto a nearby curb.
What the fuck? What is this? Final Destination?
That's
yes.
Really?
I was going to say she almost got the Edie Britt special, but,
No, well.
but either way.
Yeah. Well, it does. It follows her. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
But just then, chains shoot out from an adjacent storm drain, sinking their hooks into her flesh, but she's able to pull herself away and continue running down the street. As she does, street lamps shoot sparks, vehicles burst into flames, shattering glass storefronts, and a manhole cover rises up, swirling like a flying saucer towards Joey before missing her completely and crashing into the sign of a nearby store. The store is called Larry's? Like Larry Cotton?
Oh.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Joey escapes the hellfire bursting through the grates beneath her feet, stopping in front of a store window, housing an array of television screens. As she catches her breath, one switches on, and on it, she sees herself in real time, exhausted and leaning against the storefront window. When she glances across the street, wrapped in tight leather, she sees what used to be Doc. But with a lens focusing in his bulging eye socket, Joey comes face to face with what is now the camera head Cenobite. She laments her friend's tragic transformation as Camera Head marches toward her, asking if she's seen what Pinhead has done to him, and cursing her.
In all fairness, though, she didn't have a proper working TV. I don't know what the fuck that was, but it wasn't plugged in.
No, it wasn't.
First of all, Doc would never speak to her like that.
No, he would not.
Yeah.
Secondly, I read in that book that Ken Carpenter said that he was in awe during the makeup process. And once he finished, he was like, that's a different person. I've just become a different person.
Well, yeah, he's got a camera sticking out of his
Yeah.
face. But
He didn't used to have that.
Yeah.
No.
But how cool, though, would that be? You know what I mean? To sit there and let them just turn you into a Cenobite.
It'd be awesome.
And you feel the completely different vibe of the performance.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. And he does feel kind of like he's been betrayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you said how cool it would feel to be turned into a Cenobite, you meant the makeup team, right?
Well, a little bit of both. Yeah. The pain, man. The pain.
Right. But with his camera-like eye focusing on the storefront of televisions, Joey runs away, the machines exploding in a burst of sparks and glass. I guess he's just been given dominion over TVs or something.
Yeah.
Like, and this is your area. But in her retreat, Joey bumps into young Guy, played by Steve Painter. And I read Steve Painter did special effects on the film.
Oh, cool.
very nice.
But Joey is frantic, although Guy is very chill, asking her calmly where she's going. And when she screams that they need to get the hell out of here, he assures her that everything's cool.
Did you not see all those explosions? And the fucking electrolyte water or whatever that chasing me?
But when he turns, he comes face to face with Camera Head, who seizes him by the shoulders, zooming his lens right through the guy's skull. He spies Joey's frightened face through the hole he's just created in the guy's head, and he asks Joey if she's ready for her close-up. Joey runs away as Camera Head continues his slow-crawling pursuit, but she stops dead in her tracks when she notices what used to be CD the DJ, now moving mechanically with slits in his face and a leather-clad torso, marching his way toward the cowering taxi driver.
See, he makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. The CD Cenobite, played by Eric Wilhelm, ejects compact discs from his torso, launching them like projectiles which pierce the taxi driver's skull. More like a sleigh list, am I right?
Ah, very good.
But when the CD Cenobite turns his attention to Joey, she takes off running, and we see that Pinhead has joined the proceedings, eyeing her sinisterly as she narrowly escapes explosions of fire and sparks before freezing in terror as a brick wall bursts open. So originally, in earlier drafts of the screenplay, and I even think in the first cut of the film, Pinhead, he sends his minions to do all this bullshit.
Yeah.
He's waiting to get her whenever and wherever. But the producers were like, nah, we need Pinhead on the street level. And it's like, what? Doesn't he have guys for this?
Yeah.
Like, it feels weird, and it does feel like it was shot at a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's not like they're the fucking mob trying to rough people up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why have him out there?
He gets to where he's going.
Yes.
And I'll explain a little bit later because there is a part of the original ending that does factor Pinhead into certain moments, but Joey actually isn't there.
Oh.
It's very interesting.
Okay.
Out steps another figure clad in leather, holding a martini shaker. The figure who was once Rick the Barman is now Barbie Cenobite. He bellows a scream, fire raging from his opened mouth as Joey takes off running.
He's had one too many of those flaming homers. Or flaming Mo.
True.
Yeah.
As the newly christened Cenobites continue their pursuit through the streets, two police cars barrel down an adjacent intersection, blocking it off. The officers step out of their vehicles and draw their weapons. Two of the officers, played by Bob Bragg and Bob Stevens, aim their guns, and Joey pleads with the third officer, played by Shanna Jacobs, but nobody heeds her warnings or urgency, and instead, one of the officers catches a flying compact disc right in the mouth.
Those things gotta break.
One would think.
Not these.
It's a CD.
They're different, I guess.
The C stands for Cinnabite. It's Cinnabite designed.
Disc.
No,
Disc.
The two remaining officers unload, but their firepower is worthless against the Cenobites, as Barbie shakes his cocktail, tossing the liquid onto the cops, which they hilariously recognize as gasoline. He goes, it's gasoline.
Yeah.
That's actually fucking hilarious that it's not some like evil concoction.
Yeah.
But Joey runs away as Barbie burns them up in a burst of flames, their police cruisers exploding as the Cenobites march on. Camera head announcing, "That's a wrap."
Not that's a wrap.
Yeah.
I
Like,
love it.
on. Joey, however, finds her way inside of an old church, collapsing onto the carpeted aisle inside with the lament configuration in her hand. So the exterior of this is a real church in North Carolina, and they actually filmed it at night in secret because they couldn't find a church that would allow them to film there.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the thing is that was so funny to me is that they obviously had to create a set of the inside because of that. They can't film in a real church.
Yeah.
But Steve Jones, the publicist, he said that there are so many stories about like people protesting whenever they were trying to film because, you know, the religious climate in North Carolina and all this, and they did this scene and it was such a big thing and it was so controversial and all this. He goes, I was the publicist for this film. I fucking wish that was true.
Yeah.
He said we could use that as advertising
For sure.
or for something. He
Yeah.
goes, but none of that ever happened. He goes, it's been completely overblown.
Damn.
But one thing that is true is the set that they built for this scene, which is kind of wild because the only things that are actually there are the entrance, the chairs, the red carpet, and the window at the end. Everything else on the sides is a matte painting.
What?
Wow.
Never guessed.
Hell
No.
no.
But a choir of voices sing in the score, the room lit only in candlelight, as a priest, played by Clayton Hill, walks over to greet Joey, asking her politely what's the matter.
I did laugh because we watched him walk over here for about 10 minutes and it was very funny to me. But you already mentioned that he and his wife that we met earlier were in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
He played the sweater zombie, but he was also the weapons coordinator.
Oh,
Hey.
that's awesome.
Yeah, for Dawn of the
Yeah.
Dead 78.
Overwhelmed, Joey quavers that she has to get him back to her apartment, back to the window. But she says that they just won't stop coming. The priest asks who she's talking about, and Joey blurts, "The demons!" The priest just smiles, comforting Joey that demons aren't real, they're just parables, metaphors.
But don't they believe in demons with all the exorcisms and whatnot?
One would think.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Oh, not in this church.
No. But the church door suddenly creaks open, and a bright light is cast into the building, illuminating Pinhead's silhouette. Joey asks, then what the fuck is that?
She's right. And that is a gorgeous shot.
Oh, it's
Yes.
beautiful. The two stare in horror at Pinhead before Joey attempts to rush the priest away, but Pinhead marches onward, stained glass windows exploding the moment that he crosses in front of them. The priest turns to face Pinhead, brandishing an ornate crucifix and seething, "How dare you?" Pinhead calmly responds that thou shalt not bow down before any graven image, and the crucifix melts into the priest's hand, slicing his palm with its slick metal.
Damn.
Yeah.
He screams wildly as Pinhead lets out a chuckle before ascending the altar, knocking over a Bible and crucifix furiously before taking his place at the center between two lit candles. He removes a nail from his skull, a small piece of brain matter twisted around its pointed end, before stabbing it into his palm. He then removes another nail, stabbing it through his other palm, the church walls crackling and the flames of the candles bursting to a great height. He holds out his arms, leaning his head to one side, mocking Christ's crucifixion as he announces, "I am the way."
How fucking petty was that? I loved every second of this. The visual is so good, so wrong, so disturbing. It's fantastic. It is kind of funny to think that they're just standing there and watching him do this.
Yeah. It feels like a bit of a side quest for Pinhead.
Yeah, well.
Because there were a few steps to it.
Yeah.
Established dominance.
I guess.
But I'm with you. I loved this whole thing. This whole, from when the door opens to when it ends, like this whole little section here, this little scene, fucking fantastic.
But the stained glass window behind him explodes, as does the altar at which he stands, as he cackles and the priest shrieks. The priest charges for Pinhead, shouting that he'll burn in hell for this. But Pinhead just seizes the priest's shoulder, shrinking him to the ground and chuckling. Burn? Oh, such a limited imagination.
The priest was wild for that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to pay for that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But as he caresses the priest's face, he tears off part of his strange little nipple strips, announcing that this is his body and this is his blood. Happy are they all that come to his supper. And with that, he sticks this piece of flesh into the priest's mouth, who struggles against the offering.
The mockery of it all. But I'm like, Joey, please. She's like, let's see where he's going.
Yeah.
Let him cook.
She's like, damn, was that his nipple?
I was like, what the hell?
I was like, why is she doing it?
Yeah.
She's like, I gotta be respectful just because this isn't how I worship.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean.
Must be tolerant.
Yes, yes.
Every right.
But Joey, with the lament configuration in her hands, holds it out to Pinhead, ordering him to come and get it, reminding him that this is what he wants, not to fuck with some poor priest.
He's like, oh yeah.
But Pinhead bellows a roar as the priest collapses, gagging on the flesh on his tongue. Joey exits the church, rushing into an empty construction site, but stopping to survey her surroundings in fear when she hears a repetitive mechanical noise. When she turns to face the direction of the sound, she finds two figures cut out of the dark, both clad in leather. One, who used to be J.P. Monroe, stands snarling, a piston pulsing in and out of his skull as he smiles. But Pistonhead stands next to the dreamer Cenobite, a cigarette jutting from a wound in her throat, and despite her transformation, Joey clearly recognizes that it used to be Terry.
No.
Yeah.
So sad.
It is. They both look so good.
They
Yeah.
do. The snarl of Pistonhead as his head just
Yeah.
over and over, it's like, that's pretty upsetting.
Well, I don't like that.
Yeah.
No, it's so good.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, so sad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The dreamer Cenobite proclaims that she can dream now, and Joey wouldn't believe what she can dream of now. Joey laments Terry's choice, and Pistonhead declares that the whole thing he's got going is better than sex. Nobody asked you.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm having a moment here. But they swoop upon Joey, circling around her, taunting her, beating her, and burning her. Pinhead finally makes his return, announcing to Joey that the Dreamer and Pistonhead are handmade, calling them the shadow of his former troops, over-eager, but he urges her to let them play, as their game will come later. And he's right to call them a shadow because none of these line up with the Chatterer.
Yeah.
I will say, and it's so odd that it seems like they just used what was around them. Like, well, he's a bartender. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
oh, he's a DJ. Let's put some CDs in him.
They were doing shit on the fly. Things were moving
clearly.
very quickly.
But he assures her that down the dark decades of her pain, this will seem like a memory of heaven. Camera head, Barbie, and the CD Cenobite join the fray, but before they can begin their game with Joey, just in the nick of time, twisting it in her hands, Joey solves the lament configuration. She holds it up, quipping, "Play with this, Pinhead." This is the first time he's ever been called Pinhead on film.
Oh. It's also the longest it's ever taken to solve the limit configuration.
Well, her hands were slippery.
Yeah.
They were.
The box falls from her hands, twisting and changing shape before settling back into a cryptic cube, a prism of blue light rising from its center. A blast of this blue light bursts from it, engulfing the encroaching Cenobites, including Pinhead, all of them screaming as they're bathed in blue, fading away and disappearing back into the lament configuration. All alone now, Joey sits in the dirt in front of the puzzle box, asking Captain Spencer if that's it. But she realizes that she didn't bring Pinhead through her window. And as she does, a low rumble is her only answer, and she watches as her surroundings fade away, replaced by the vibrant trees and the green and yellow grass of her nightmares of Vietnam. She snags the puzzle box from the ground, rising from her feet and staring in disbelief as she's slowly approached by her father. He tells her that he doesn't understand. He was somewhere else. Somewhere shining. He says someone came to him and said, "Your daughter's done well. Go to her."
I was like, so this is like a treat?
Yeah.
So this is like Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
He repeats that he doesn't understand, but Joey understands, and smiling, she wraps her arms around her father, remarking that this is a reward. His face appears sinister in her embrace, but softens when she turns to face him again. It's like, come on.
Of course.
Yeah.
He can't believe that it's really her, but he tells her that they said she would have something for him. Something that she won't need anymore. Joey assumes this to be the puzzle box and offers it to her father immediately.
Yeah, why?
We're not going to use any critical thinking on this.
No. She's like, oh, this old thing?
Yeah, here, I don't need it.
But only when he clasps it in his hands does Joey realize that something is wrong. She backs away from her father, whimpering and asking how he knew her name. Her father stands stoic, Pinhead's voice escaping from his lips as he thanks her, transforming back into his Cenobite self. He chuckles, remarking that human dreams are such fertile ground for sowing the seeds of torment.
That was mean, Pinhead.
It was.
Yeah. You didn't really think it was going to be that easy, did you?
You know, for a second there, I really did. He tells Joey that she's so ripe, and it's harvest time. Joey cries out in disbelief, but Pinhead suggests that she save her tears, assuring her that he'll reap her soul slowly. He rejoices that he has centuries to discover the things that make her whimper. He then pushes her to the ground as she curses him for invading her mind. He grins that her nighttime world isn't closed to him. In fact, her mind is so naked, a book that yearns to be read, a door that begs to be opened. Joey repeats the word door and then remembers the window.
Word association.
Yeah. As Pinhead unsheathes the blade from his belt and brandishes it, the jungle of Vietnam slowly fades away, replaced by the room in which Captain Spencer met his suffering. I just want to say before we get transported into this room, and they talked about it on commentary, it is weird as fuck to see Pinhead in the sunlight like that.
Yeah.
It is.
And there is something really kind of off about his makeup in this sequence. And when you were talking earlier about Doug Bradley saying it was his least favorite, that moment kind of pointed me in the direction of why.
Yeah, in that book they were talking about him not being the right shade. Like he's usually a lot more gray and blue, and so he looked almost like flesh toned in this field, and it you know, that's not what Pinhead looks like typically.
It was especially around his eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, are you just wearing a Pinhead mask, dude? Are you her father under that? Is it like...
It actually was him.
Yeah. 2 surprises.
It is noticeable.
Yeah.
And what a cool line, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He, again, I know we talk about it, but damn, every time he's got a little bit to say something, it's like, damn, maybe I do want to be in that box with you.
Spencer steps out of the shadows, remarking that Pinhead couldn't resist playing games and had to come through the window of Joey's mind. Joey cowers as Spencer announces that Pinhead is now in his dominion, and now they're going to hell. Pinhead suggests ladies first, turning to face Joey as chains appear from the walls and the ceiling, seizing her and stringing her up. Against Spencer's protests, Pinhead promises that he'll like Joey better this way. Leather straps seize her, covering her face as Spencer watches on.
This is like the cloaked Kermit meme with Pinhead and
Honestly, yeah. Pinhead asks why Spencer resists. After all, he made him. He shares that there's a world outside waiting to yield to them, with so much flesh and so many different pleasures. And there's a very cool split diopter shot in this sequence.
Yes.
Very, very cool. But Joey's eyes dart around in search of a way out. But suddenly, the ground bursts open, and a slimy worm-like creature with a yawning maw and sharp teeth rises upward. From its body extends a sharp and intricate metal device pointed jaggedly into Joey's face. Pinhead smiles as Spencer admits that he's right. They do belong together. But very slyly, Spencer reaches his hand for Pinhead's wrist, clutching it and causing him to drop the lament configuration. The moment he does, the Build-A-Bite workshop that has surrounded Joey disappears.
That was scary shit.
It was.
It was.
She watches as Spencer and Pinhead begin to tussle, their minds stretching outward to each other, their faces tangling in a mess of flesh as both men scream, until Pinhead absorbs Captain Spencer completely. The frenzied score silenced, Pinhead turns to Joey, asking, "Now, where were we?" But suddenly, cacophonous voices groan as Pinhead struggles against them, Spencer's face returning momentarily as he orders Joey to send him to hell. Joey seizes the puzzle box, twisting it until a dagger suddenly juts from one of its sides, slicing her. She twists the puzzle into a prism with the sharp edge of the dagger at one end, and when Pinhead approaches her, she seethes, "Go to hell," stabbing the dagger into Pinhead's heart. He writhes in pain, backing away as the dagger emits an electrical charge as Pinhead howls. His body and face twist and contort until he's once again absorbed into the puzzle box, which returns to the shape of a cube, dropping to the floor. But instead of the stone ground of the room, it drops into the dirt of the construction site. Joey, returned from her nightmarish limbo, picks up the puzzle box from the ground, finding a section of wet concrete nearby. She pushes the box inside, burying it deep and exiting the site triumphantly. But time passes, and the camera tilts up from the constructed building. The once wet concrete is now very dry, and a large gold monument with intricate designs rests outside, surveyed and marveled by passers-by. We follow a couple of yuppies, played by young Bobby Knoop and James D.R. Hickox, as they enter the lobby, the walls of which are decorated in the frightening and familiar etchings of the lament configuration.
So we're mega fucked then, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if the custodian mops the floor wrong, like what happens now?
It's like, no, don't touch that.
Yeah. How do you clean this motherfucker, for real?
Oh, you don't.
Yeah, you don't.
But we fade to black and the credits roll. So before I ask the customary question, what the original ending in one of the screenplays was that I actually prefer to this idea with the lament configuration kind of being a building was one of Clive Barker's original ideas, moving on from the pyramid to just a building in modern times. And so they kind of just used that as the ending here.
Okay.
But in the screenplay, whenever Joey is chased out into the street from the boiler room, she rushes home. She doesn't go to the church. She doesn't do anything. Pinhead apparently goes to the church on his own and has that scene with the priest all himself.
Oh, well, that makes sense why she doesn't help at all.
Yeah. And so what happens is she gets to her apartment and Pinhead is waiting for her on her ceiling. And they compared it in that book a lot to the scene from The Exorcist III.
Oh,
okay.
Where she doesn't notice. And so she gets the box and they enter through the window together. And through the window, they meet Captain Spencer, all of that stuff. They merge together. And that is when we meet the new Cenobites.
Huh.
Oh.
Not through this weird, like, street level crime.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that things are very different from here. Instead of her doing any kind of battle or her switching this lament configuration into a dagger, she makes a Faustian bargain with Pinhead and the Cenobites, and she becomes his bride.
Huh.
And in becoming his bride, she gets everything she ever wanted. And so just like in the first film, the camera pulls back because they have a whole wedding sequence. She walks down the aisle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Everything. She's wearing a leather wedding gown with like red accents, all this stuff. But the camera pulls back through the circle in the lament configuration, just like it does in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sitting in like a glass bell jar on her desk. She is an incredibly successful television personality with her own show. And seated in her office with her is her former boss, Brad, who is like an underling now. And she tells him, "You have to ask yourself, Brad, what do I really want? And what am I prepared to pay? You have to ask yourself the question." And Brad wonders what question. And she leans in and asks him, "What's your pleasure, sir?" And that's the end of the film.
That is better.
Huh.
I think it's better.
Me too.
I don't know about the marriage thing, but I mean, it just seems like a lot. It seems like a lot to put on screen and
it kind of does because I don't think Pinhead gives a shit.
Yeah, I know.
But I think the symbolism of it and
Yes.
the arc, and it ties back to this stagnation or whatever inability to move up that she was experiencing at the beginning.
Okay.
It fulfills that arc.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I thought they were starting with, especially the scene at the hospital.
right.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're finding your story, but I guess in this film, that's all that it really was.
Mm-hmm.
But in the other film, it was her using all of this to get what she wanted.
Okay. Okay.
And it really is a left turn because you don't expect your final girl to be doing some shit like that.
No.
That is true. That is true.
I really like that. I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, if that is kind of how everything was playing out, then yeah, I would have liked to see that too.
This one was fine.
Yeah,
but
it was
yeah,
fine.
I do like that better.
Yeah.
But I did see as well that I guess this building might play a role in whatever happens in the next film.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I have no idea at all.
Wait, the next
Yeah.
one's the Kevin Yeager one, right?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
fuck.
The Alan Smithy one.
Yes.
I will say I don't think I've seen anything after this, but the newer one.
Oh,
or
yeah.
the newest one.
Oh, yeah. The newest one was
yeah.
really good.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it was. But I have to ask the customary question. What did you guys think of Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth?
I really enjoyed this. Again, not everything is, kind of fits together, but I feel like for what we're getting for a Hellraiser movie, it does feel very quick and things kind of get to where they need to go. I did enjoy everybody in the movie.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? A lot of it, especially Pinhead. I mean, it's fucking Pinhead. But I do feel like there was some times when it was a bit like, you should be a little more worried than that. Or you should, like you said, babe, the reactions, I think.
Yeah.
It was just like, huh. But, I mean, it is small things. And, again, it's just a really fun time. And speaking about that other ending, it does sound more interesting than what we get here.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, again, it's a Hellraiser movie. You know what I mean? What really more would you expect from this?
No, I really liked it too. There are some issues with the story. And honestly, learning about that ending, it kind of makes this ending not shine as bright.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't anything astounding. It was just like, oh, fuck, but I think that it was really fun. I loved seeing Pinhead really have room to breathe, have room to stretch out, just like you kind of said in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, just fuck shit up, have the best time. I loved that sequence in the church.
Yes.
It's so dark. It was just fantastic. And I know that some of them are ridiculous. I'm looking at you, CD guy. I know that some of the designs are silly, or some of the reasoning behind it may be a little flimsy or whatever, because we needed a shaker in his hand in life and in afterlife or whatever. I am a sucker for them. I think that they look fantastic, even spitting out CDs or shoving their camera through somebody. I loved Terry and JP. I loved the way that they looked. I didn't love JP. I loved the design of the Cenobite version of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Joey was really cool. I think that the story is really good. It could have just used a little bit more cohesion, maybe, of story arcs that are established early on and kind of abandoned. There is it's almost a sense of unreality, the way that this crazy shit can happen in this hospital and then nobody else ever hears about it. And then Joey brings it to work and they're like, whatever, Joey. Like, it's weird. It really, the first 20 minutes of the film, I was waiting on someone to wake up. Like, that is how unreal it felt to me.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think that it's a really good time. I do really enjoy these Hellraiser films. I love this lore and this really dark world, and the designs of these Cenobites is always a treat. I had a really good time.
No, I had a lot of fun with it too, and I really do think that even with the ending that we got, I feel like it was still a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
That ending, when I read it in that book, I was so upset that that's not the one that we got.
Yeah.
But I'm trying my best not to
punish it.
Yeah. And it's hard because that ending is really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it bothers me that we didn't get what they were clearly seeming to set up. And even with JP's fucking asshole ass, where he was talking so rudely to Terry about Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted that romance arc, that love arc between Terry and Joey.
Yes.
And you know what? Honestly, maybe that is also a bit of a catalyst to saying, you know what? Fuck it. Because if she fell in love with Terry and Terry chose to be a Cenobite instead,
why not?
Why not get mine?
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that turning point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I feel like narrative issues aside, and there are narrative issues.
Yeah.
I think that it is anchored by Doug Bradley.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
On both sides, light and dark. And I do think that the other performances are really fantastic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to admit, and I got to be like the odd man out here, I fucking hate those new Cenobites.
Even Terry?
Terry and JP are good.
Yeah.
Those, I want more like that. It feels like he put all of his work and they're like, dude, you need 3 more Cenobites by Sunday. And he's like, it's Saturday night.
Well,
What do you like? You like the bar, right? Yeah, you're fucking Barbie the Cenobite. Yeah. You like CDs, right?
but he does say that they're a shadow of his former team.
He does. He's like, look, this isn't my best work.
I mean, he had to hurry. Right?
He
had
on
to
the
hurry.
fly.
He admits
He
it.
had more time with JP and Terry.
At least he admitted it. It's like, I did a lot better in the past.
Well, but he made them before or during the massacre. So maybe after he had more power. And then he's like, okay, now I can spend more time with them.
Now I'm using my whole ass.
Yeah. Not just half.
Not just half. But those new designs aside, I do think that it is a lot of fun. And it really is. I just think that what I think and what I thought, and I know we said it at the beginning, I thought that it was going to be such a noticeable decline.
Right.
Yes.
But I did not feel that at all with this film.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and you saying that, I will admit that there were parts of this movie that I kept thinking were in the first two, and then when we covered them, I was like, that never happened. Maybe I just fucking imagined that. And then watching this, I was like, oh no, it's this movie. So I know that I had seen this a few times when I was young, but not watching it for so long again, I remembered the Cenobites and I was like, I know they're silly. Or they look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you just see them without context, you don't know what the fuck's going on. So it's like, what? But then watching the movie, it's like, oh, okay. I like it more than I thought I, remember.
Yeah.
But I think we can move into ratings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've kind of gone over the things that we didn't like. I really, really loved a lot of the cinematography in this film. There is such brilliant and atmospheric lighting. I feel like honestly, really all of the Hellraiser films have really interesting use of lighting.
Yeah.
And this one was really, really good. I love the scene where Joey comes back to the boiler room.
Mm-hmm.
That whole sequence of finding all these bodies of the club goers. Like you said, that scene in the church is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anytime Pinhead steps out and you got the light beaming behind him,
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love a lot of the choices that they made creatively. There's a lot of choices they made creatively that I
Not
as much. But I love the music as well.
Yeah.
It's not Christopher Young, but it is good and it is what is needed.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they replaced they had like a list of tracks and I'm like, in what world would this make sense here?
Okay.
So, and honestly, there's something very regal about Pinhead.
Yeah.
About the Cenobites, and so it makes sense to me to have an orchestral score
Yeah.
throughout. It just works. And I will say the film does end with Motorhead's Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Yes.
A cover of Ozzy Osbourne's Hellraiser. But no, I think that this film is a lot better than I expected it to be. It does have issues, and I do have some issues with it. But we were talking off mic before we started recording about our scores for the first two Hellraiser films.
Yeah.
That I think that getting 3 into them, do we agree that maybe we can retool a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're far enough in.
Okay, because looking at my old scores, I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So the first Hellraiser, I gave a 7. I want to give that a 9. The second Hellraiser, also known as Hellbound Hellraiser 2, I gave a 7. I want to give a 6.5. And Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, out of 10 painfully pleasurable puzzle boxes, I am going to give this film 7 painfully pleasurable puzzle boxes out of 10. I would go higher if it had that fucking ending.
Yeah.
I love that so much, the way that it starts that arc and continues it in such a satisfying way.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for the repetition of things. When we end the first two films with "What's Your Pleasure, Sir?"
Yeah.
I want to hear that again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And especially coming from somebody who went through so much to get where she went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really, that upsets me a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll see where this building goes or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I will open the floor to you.
I do got to agree with you on the ending. I feel like learning about that, it does put a bit of a damper on what we got, because it's like, oh, we could have had more. You know what I mean? Even if you took little ideas from that and made it the ending cool, you know? I do like the look of the building, but I mean, that's just how we end. That's it.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, this was a lot of fun. And again, like I mentioned a minute ago, there was so much of this movie that I thought were in the other two films, and they weren't. It was this one. So I do know, or I will say that this might have made a bigger impression on me than the second film, because I remember the first one good, and then the second one, when we covered it, I was like, okay, yeah, you know, some of this is coming back, whatever. And then this one, though, once I got into it, I was like, oh yeah. So I think I think in moving the first movie into a 9, I would like to do the same thing.
Okay.
But the second one, I think I gave it a 7.5. I do like this one a little better. I don't know if maybe it's just because we get more Pinhead. I mean, which is always good. The Cenobites, I mean, yes, they are the C team or whatever, but I mean, they are created from what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it's not, you know what I mean? It can't be too bad. But I will say that I did enjoy this a little more. So for me, on a scale of 1 to 10, painfully pleasurable puzzle boxes, I'm going to give Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, an 8. Oh, I want to say 8.5, but I'm going to do an 8. I'll stay right here at an 8. I do like it more than the second one. But we do still have more movies to go.
Yes.
And I know that at some point we hit a great value pinhead. I'm not sure how far that goes. But also, like I said, and we said we've seen the newest one or the latest one, and that one is good too. So once we get there, then we can, go from there.
Yeah.
I think I want to amend my amendment. Because I'm listening to you, and the more you're talking about it and the things that you are saying about how good the second one actually is, it actually is better than a 6.5. And it does have Julia Cotton in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that I'm going to put these together at a 7. 2 and 3.
Okay. I agree with both of y'all on the initial film. I would like to move mine to a 9 as well. I am going to keep Hellbound Hellraiser 2 at a 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
And as for this one, like I said, I really do enjoy it. Pinhead is just so entertaining. The performance from Doug Bradley is incredible. And I do like this story. I do feel like I was robbed of a Joey and Terry connection or situation, because I'm like, were y'all doing that on purpose or not?
Yeah.
I could not have just hallucinated that, right?
Well, we all did.
Yeah. But like that, there are aspects that I would have liked explored a little bit more. I don't need them to have a happily ever after. I even love what you added about her losing Terry and being like, fuck it. Let's do it then. And that ending, the proposed ending that we did not get, is, in my opinion, much, much better. But what we did get was still a lot of fun. And I do think that I enjoyed it more than the second one. The only thing that's missing here is Julia for me.
Mm-hmm.
So on that scale of 1 to 10 painfully pleasurable puzzle boxes, I am going to agree with you and give Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, 8 out of 10 painfully pleasurable puzzle boxes.
Very good. I took a point away for those goddamn Cenobites.
That's
Well, maybe as we go on, man,
Who knows?
We'll meet some, you like a little better.
Who knows what's in store?
He's like, I slept more.
Yeah.
Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Pod Mortem. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and like our Stairhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at TravisMWH, at Blood and Smoke, and at RealStreeter84. Thanks again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll gain access to bonus content, our monthly schedule, our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. And if you're looking for Pod Mortem and Stairhole Productions merch, follow the link in our episode notes. Stay tuned until after the music for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, curiosity may open worlds to you, but you never know what's waiting on the other side. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned. We want to give a very special thank you to all of our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo! Yeah!
I love you so much. A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Thomas, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Antonio Huerta, Kimberly Kleindienst, Will Brown, Sydney Smith, Osvaldo Soto, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhard, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Berry, Brittany Seaman, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Liz Heath, Spencer Montavo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Newting, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Leisha Olivier, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Brittany G, Dave Burke, Adrian Stakes, Daniel McGinnis, Nick Spill, Emma Hagel Kissinger, Valerie G, Emiliana, Brian Glass, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer,
Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Kyle, OKC, Danielle Peralta, Brandon, Sawyer Reese Farr, Dr. Diva Loves Horror, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xxena Rush, Ryan Brom, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Eileen O, Marissa E, Sydney, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanovan, Katie K, Erica Morin, Cameron S, Nicole Stewart, Triss Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murder Stina, No Thanks Tom Hanks, Kevin McGonigal, Kristen Marcy, Ori81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Velnez63, Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Jen Lassiter, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Jean Jacket, Valerie K, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith,
Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S, Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Jen T, Kim H, August, Vengeance Spirit, Sam J. Green, Kelly Glazyface Mac, Jenny May, Zoe Marie, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D, Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J, Daniel Dickerson, Jordan Gaddis, Cam Davies, Patrick Hoagland, Raven, King Roger, D, Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Spencer, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Nisi Nay, Erica, Jason X Rules, Karen Burrows, 203 Duncan, Aaron Norman, Stephen Rogers, Victoria Smith, Corey Gillen, Patricia A. Graham, Erasmo Pena, Danielle Wright, Bud Hates Mushrooms, Tabitha Thomas, Connie Lingus, Becca Boo, Richard Murray, and Irene. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you all. And if we didn't commend you for your kindness and support, we would be real pinheads.
Ah.
Until next time.